It's time once again, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome you back to another day of AMX Global League Season 3. We are starting things out as we are wont to do with AMX 0 from the Hockenheim Ring for GT4s out here today, starting things out this way, and then later on we're going to be going to a little bit of GT3 action, and it's just going to keep getting better and better. We are, of course, spinning above the track for now, but before we get into things, I want to go ahead and welcome back, after a long belated break here, Alex Goldschmidt. How have you been?
I'm very, very good, Reed. Good to be back with you guys at AMX Global for League Season 3. Yeah, it hasn't been a break. It's been more of an enforced hiatus because I've been so damn busy at the moment. Lots of things going on. ADAC SimRacing Expo in Dortmund was an absolute hit, which, well, got to represent, got to do it.
Nice.
It's got to be done. But yeah, it's been a very, very busy time. But plenty of esports, plenty of IRL, lots of karting. I'm off to Bahrain and Hanover for some karting and some esports to curtail the end of my season. But, can't miss a bit of AMX, and especially when it's a double bill of sports cars.
Yeah, that's right. It's a great day. We changed up the schedule a little bit. Listened to everybody else out there and was like, hey, we need more GT3, GT4. So here we go. It's going to be a great day. And obviously, GT3, GT4 class, some of the most popular cars out there on the tracks. We have some very popular tracks here today, not the least of which is the Hockenheim Ring. And so I'm just looking forward to a great day of races. When everybody's on the same page, then it just makes for a great day of action here in AMX Global Season 3. Before we get into the actual races, we have a little bit of housekeeping, so we're going to run through this really quickly and then get into the good stuff in just a minute. Actually, the good stuff would be racing on some of those inner tracks, but we're not quite that good yet. So just by way of overview, this is a 3-month league from September 20th to December 10th with a total of 72 races and probably even more cars and tracks. The combos have been great, and so we're really keeping it going this year. $25,000 on the line for this season, and the race format is, of course, the most iconic part of Season 3. It's a 15-minute qualifier followed by a 15-minute heat 1 and then another 15-minute heat with top 15 reverse grids in between and prize amounts paid out for each section of the race. That's payouts for qualifiers, payouts for Heat 1, and then the same thing for Heat 2. So really makes things a lot more exciting, and I hope you guys enjoy the races today. By way of introduction, we want to see you. So make sure to turn your camera on. If you do that for AMX 0, you get an extra $1, and it is required for our pinnacle of competition in AMX 10. So make sure to join our video link via the website or the announcements section on our Discord, which you can also find on the website. And we pay out balances over $100 every month, so we're going to get that out to you guys. So that's going to do it for all of our info. If you want more information, you can, of course, visit amxrace.com to sign up and get all of the information you could ever possibly want. This is a look at the schedule for the Americas region. If you are in the U.S. Eastern Standard Time, it's not Eastern Summer Time, it's Eastern Standard Time. And you want to race with us, you can do so on Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's in the evenings on Wednesday, and then on the weekends, just around about noontime, is when we are starting out AMX 0 and AMX 10 a little bit after that at 1:20. And if you are in Europe, this is a look at Central European Time, starting about midnight. So everything's about an hour earlier after daylight savings time, messed everything up for everybody about an hour earlier, and that means that we're starting a little after midnight on Thursday, and then in the evenings about 5:50 for AMX 0 and 7:20 p.m. for AMX 10 on Saturday and Sunday. Whew. Okay, so that is our schedule. Wherever you are out there, you can find some times to come out and race, and we'd love to have you here. We are competing for a lot this season, and for AMX 0, we have about $100 on the line, including $1 for turning on your camera and also extra $1 for fastest laps in our heats. And you can see the price breakdown there. I'm not going to read off every single number. That's your job. You can check it out, and it's about $7 if you cash in first. We have already had our very first AMX Zero Triple Crown winner, Quarantine Inez, yesterday, cashing in the big bucks for a pole position, Heat 1 and Heat 2 first place finish. Really, really remarkable day for him. So just to kind of show you it's possible, show you what can be done. It's been really cool to see the competition get even better as the season goes on. And we're not just competing for money. The cash is not the only thing. We have been supplied with a GT Lite Pro from our friends at Next Level Racing to reward the AMX Zero champion with one of the most modular and flexible cockpits out there. Of course, a big thanks to Next Level Racing for helping us level up AMX Global League Season 3 by supplying a GT Lite Pro for the AMX Zero champion this season. So if you would like to come out and try to do your best to claim that, well, it's not going to be as easy as you might imagine, because there are quite a few other people trying to climb their way up the ladder and make their position known here in AMX Zero. And so let's take a look at the AMX Zero top 12 with Quarantine Ganez, Jackson Resenge, and Gerardo Fabio Ramos. Your top 3, and to round out the top 12, you can kind of see a little bit of a trend here. A lot of racing. This season is about consistency, which means that even if you are not the fastest guy out there on the track, if you're coming out, you're racing a lot, then you're going to get your name up the standings. And even just in AMX Zero, you can see guys like Quarantine Ganez in first place. He's made over almost $250 just from racing for free in AMX Zero. That zero is how much you have to pay to enter. You just get in for free, and you can win money like you see on your screen. And it's not just about the money. It's also about the community, racing with everybody else, and putting on a good show, honing your racecraft. And speaking of honing it, this is a look at about the most honed it gets. By way of power rankings, this is how we're doing it with average winnings per race. Of course, we give away winnings per placement, and so the higher your winnings, the higher your average placements, and that's how we do power rankings this season. Quarantine Ganez, Karen Harrison, and Gustavo Ariel way up on top, and actually impressive to see guys like Jamie Christensen, who's only raced once but still put on a great show on the day, and Guile Valero also only 2 races and still looking pretty darn impressive. Whew. And that is going to do it for our average winnings and just about all the announcements that we have today. And so let's go ahead and spin once again over our racetrack for today. And in order to do the honors, I'm going to hand things back over to Alex Goldschmidt to break down what and where we are racing the rest of AMX Zero today.
Thank you very much, Reed. We are at the legendary Hockenheimring circuit, 4.574 kilometers, opened back in 1932. And it is located in the Upper Rhine Valley, actually on an old trade route from Frankfurt to Basel in Switzerland. It was opened 91 years ago. The current configuration has 17 iconic corners, and it's hosted the DTM, GT World Challenge Europe, which includes the GT4 European Series, Formula 1 German Grand Prix intermittently between 1970 and 2019, the International GT Open. So we will have, as Reed said, a 15-minute time qualifying session. We then go into Heat 1 and then Heat 2, where we have the top 15 reversed, and that is the only league that I know of in sim racing that does that. But here are the cars. Well, of course, one of the icons, the BMW M4 GT4, which currently holds the actual lap record in race trim, anywhere between 13 to 1400 kilos, with a sequential 6-speed gearbox, anywhere between 350 to 500 brake horsepower. They're rear-wheel drive based on balance of performance. The current in-real-life GT4 lap record is a 1:47.377, courtesy of Italy's Gabriele Piana back at the ADAC GT4 Germany at Hockenheim earlier on this season. Funny enough, in the first car that we saw. But with a plethora of different manufacturers, Porsche, Aston Martin, Mercedes, BMW, McLaren, and a whole host of others, there's going to be a lot of mixed variety around the grid here at the Hockenheimring, as we are very much getting underway with time qualifying for AMX Zero here on race day 24.
Excellent job as always, Alex. Big thanks to you for sharing all of your juicy nuggets of wisdom with us. Yeah, I'm a little bit newer to automobile racing, motorsports, whatever you want to call it. So I appreciate your expertise out here today on a track that really does require a lot of that expertise. Obviously, it's not enough to say that Hockenheimring is iconic without talking about why that is. And to bring these GT4s out here, it really just goes ahead and highlights one of the best combos that we've got all season long. A little bit more of an accessible car. It's not going to absolutely rocket you into the future, but it is still a great competitive option to bring out here onto the Hockenheimring to see what our racers can do. And we do have quite a few racers out here today. I think we're rocking almost 20 in the field, so it should be a lot of good action.
Yeah, we're on board with Kaya Gaspar at the moment, heading through into Mobile 1 before the iconic Sachs curve. There's a lot of undulation, there's a lot of twists and turns around this circuit, especially the double right-hander through Sud curve, which brings them around to complete the lap. I think that might have been actually, well, someone in the McLaren, I think that was Pedro Oliveira, that just had a bit of a moment coming through into Mobile 1. So Corentin Guignez rocking the good old friend from Affalterbach, the Mercedes AMG GT4. This is also a very good way of those people that aren't, that want to race in GT3s and want a little bit of a stepping stone and an introduction to sports car racing. As much as in real life, it's the same here in sim racing. The GT4 is a very, very good avenue to go along, and yeah, it just goes to show that this kind of class read is open to everybody, and that's exactly what we do here at AMX Global. Of course, the recent tie-in with the FIA allocated ASN for Korea, the Korean Automobile Racing Association. It's really great to have them on board, and there's a lot more developments in the pipeline coming in months very, very soon here to AMX Global. But we're just waiting for the first few drivers to put a banker lap in. Of course, the circuit has evolved to a multitude of different layouts. Just for those that might remember the 1980s and 1990s in Formula 1, they didn't use this circuit. They actually went through all the local forestry, but it's evolved into the circuit we know now. It's provided some great racing as everyone, Reed, is out on track and about to put down a flyer.
Yeah, definitely hoping so. Everyone, including Kieran Harrison, on your screen right now. This guy up at the top of the standings in the Drivers' Championship for AMX 0. He is representing, of course, SimRC along with his teammate, Corentin Guignez, who's way up at the top. He's only 24 years old, so he has a lot of racing ahead of him. And this is a guy that's gone racing in real life as well as on the simulator. Put up some of the best performances that we've seen all season long. So always exciting to see Kieran Harrison out on to the racetrack. If you would like to follow along with the race cars we have racing around the Hockenheimring today, you can do so with the live timing QR code that you see popping up on your screen right about now. You can scan that with your phone. It's going to pop the live timing up and let you follow along with us as we get through our qualifying laps here today. 4 minutes through a 15-minute qualifier, and already Corentin Guignez, to nobody's surprise, up there at the top of the SimRC teammate for a 1-2 provisional pole, 1:44.9 out there. You expect this time to really go down, or is that right around what we should be expecting, Alex?
That's the first real benchmark that we're seeing a SimRC 1-2 at the moment, with Guignez and Harrison. Guignez, of course, leading AMX 0 in the early standings so far, coming into day 24 of this fantastic season 3 here on AMX Global. I think the track is going to evolve, but when you look at how close it is, all the way down to 9th position, Gaston Coulthard is about a second off. Now, Coulthard we did see as the season 2 champion here on AMX Global with the most winnings, but that was before we started to split things up and upset the apple, so to speak.
Yeah.
14 of the 18 drivers have set a lap time, rounded out by Nico Godoy in the number 20 Porsche, 1:47.413. I think we could be, in the next 10 minutes, heading towards maybe a mid to a low 1:44 around this circuit. It's just about commitment. Can you find that extra 10 in every single sector, maybe a little bit more?
Yeah, I appreciate the optimism, and actually, like you were saying earlier, when it comes to GT4 lap records out on the Hockenheim ring, it is actually fairly comparable to what we're seeing here. I think that 147, if I'm not mistaken, was what we saw in real life. So obviously, we're bringing that down a little bit in the sim here. And some of the sim racers that we do have here are the liveries you see right there on your screen. A lot of members of Voracious Esports, an Argentinian team, represented by Fabrizio Belzita, Facundo Rago, and I think they have one more guy on their team who's not racing with us yet here today, but definitely one of the teams that has come out and really made a name for themselves in AMX Zero this season. Happy to have them out here to see what they can do. Sitting around the middle of the pack right now in P5, 6, 7. Where will they end up? Always interesting to see, and also interesting to see, and maybe you can talk a little bit more about this, Alex, is there are a few different GT4 models out there. Obviously, the Porsche 718 came in pretty popular out there, but what is the difference? I mean, they're BOP'd, but what goes into choosing what you take out onto the Hockenheim ring today?
Well, I think you need that perfect balance of performance, but also adaptability, in terms of the handling of the car. These are production-based vehicles, unlike their GT3 bigger siblings, who are filled with aero, filled with different drivetrain configurations. The Porsche is a very good fit for this circuit here at the Hockenheim ring. It's mid-engined, rear-wheel drive, whereas the Mercedes will have the engine in the front of it. And the Porsche's mid-engine setup be very conducive to the centre of gravity of the car. And what I mean by that is that you're going to fling it into turn 1 and it's going to stick probably a little bit better than some of the other cars. I mean, the Aston Martin 4-litre twin-turbo V8, the AMG GT4, unlike its big brother, is also a 4-litre twin-turbo V8. So you're going to see a lot of differences in terms of the adaptability of the cars. Of course, production-based vehicles, so aero is an absolute minimum. You see the front splitter on the bottom of the front bumpers, and then also the rear wings on the back of the car with a little bit of a diffuser, which is part and parcel of the configuration of the car if it was a production model. Fabio Zampolini from Dark Hawk Racing, have to give them a shout out, so just followed them on Instagram, which is at DHR Racing Team. Fabulous Fabio goes P3 on a 1 minute 45.542. We're over halfway in the session here, Reed, and everyone apart from Josh Perween has set a lap time, with the total field covered by 2.8 seconds. But it's a second between Florentin Guignes and, of all people, Jackson Resenge down in 13th position, the number 99 Porsche. That's 13 cars covered. So it goes to show, ladies and gents, that the GT4 cars are very, very equal in terms of their overall performance, as I did see one of the Argentinian drivers pulling a little bit to the right-hand side. Not too sure who that was, but yeah, I'm waiting to see when, Florentin Guignes is about to complete his 3rd lap in this qualifying session. So we could see anywhere between 4 to 6 laps completed. But Guignes, I think, might just be warming up for another push lap, because no one has improved in terms of beating him. But Kieran Harrison has got that gap down to just over 0.3 of a second. Zampolini makes it 5.5 tenths covering the top 3. And then you look at Dorian Lelievre, Simon de Mori, and Fabrizio Belziti. They're covered by 6/100ths of a second. So battle for 4th to 6th, which will eventually be at the bottom end of the grid, as in reverse top 15. It's going to be a little bit closer down to the wire as we head into the last third, the last 5 minutes of qualifying for AMX Zero Race 24 here on Season 3.
Yeah, that's right. 15-minute qualifiers. So you would expect to see a lot of the hot laps come in the latter 5 minutes once you've gotten a chance to familiarize yourself, get things heated up, get ready to go. And I do want to point out that we do have a lone McLaren out on the field from Pedro de Oliveira, He's currently sitting P14, so perhaps part of the reason why we don't see that more commonly included is definitely a little bit harder to handle than the rest of the field, and that's why we see a lot of Porsches up at the top. Although, like you said, Zamperlini and Livier running some Astons up there and doing quite well. You were predicting earlier potentially the mid to lower 44 or 45s. Now we're seeing that 44.9 from Quarantine Guinness. I want to say pretty difficult to beat. Although, like you said, the best laps coming through, and actually an even better one. Quarantine Guinness really sort of playing single player out here, fighting himself.
It's like he's gone back in time, decided to play Turbo Outrun, because he's just gone quickest in the final sector by about, he went quicker in the final sector. And then Kieran Harrison, keep your eyes on the Brit, he's just gone on a 1:45.107, 2.5 tenths behind Quarantine Guinness. There is Kieran. We've had plenty of chats with him over the course of Season 3. Fabrizio Belziti puts in a personal best, and that is 8 1/1000ths behind Fabio Zamperlini. So things are getting a lot closer in that sort of mid part of the top 10, between third to around about 6, with Simon De Mori and the number 21 Porsche rounding out the top 6. So I would say that Guinness seems to hook it up in the final sector. So does Belziti. So does Harrison. And the biggest surprise is that Belziti was actually nearly as quick as Quarantine Guinness through the final sector. But it's in the first two sectors where the Mercedes sometimes can lose out a little bit, but the Mercedes will have a little bit more grunt coming out of what they call the Einfahrt Parabolic, which is turns 1 and 2. And then through that sweeping left, and then heading into the Spitzkehre, which is the hairpin. That's where the Mercedes can stretch its legs and try and claw up a little bit of time here in sector 2. There is Fabio Zamperlini in the bottom left-hand corner of our screens. He's heading through the Parabolica. So the car's going to hit probably close to 145 to 150 miles an hour in top gear. And then we're going to see him go hard on the brakes. He's going all the way down the gearbox into first. So he's actually using second, and about 55 kilometers an hour, which is about 30 miles an hour or so on the apex. And then starts to power out of the corner, and then we'll sweep into this right-hander. No lift from Fabio there, so fully committed, and it's going to be hard on the brakes from 5th gear into the Mercedes-AMG arena, and then you're down to 3rd. So sometimes going all the way down the gearbox doesn't always help traction. What it can do is cause the rear wheels to spool up. So rather than taking it as a 2nd gear corner, you could use it as a 3rd gear corner, and from that aspect, you can carry the momentum a lot easier through, and then the car will not want to break traction on the rear end. But Fabio has just done a personal best in sector 2, so he was actually quicker by a 10th comparison with Fabrizio Belziti. So we're going to see Fabio come out of the final corner here at Sudkurva. Now, is there going to be an improvement for the 327 from Duck Horse Racing? Duck Horse Racing. Oh, he gets to within 4 100ths. 4 100ths of a second. He put everything on the table, and unfortunately, he's not going to get another opportunity because we know that with qualifying here at AMX Global, once the 15 minutes are up, the timer is really quick and very, very ruthless, as if you might be halfway through a lap. So no lap time set by Josh Perwin or the USA's Tim State, who's just jumped into the server as well. So we could have a capacity 19 strong grid. Of course, GT3s will be up a little bit later on for AMX 10 at the next circuit of choice. We'll let you know what that is after these two races are finished. But some fast times coming in. There is the number 95, I think that is Facundo Rago, the Argentinian, in 7th, as we are seeing Fabrizio Belziti has just put personal bests across the board and improves to a 1 minute 45.433, but that's not enough to stop a Sim RC 1-2 with Quarantine Guinness pretty much set to take pole as the timer counts down to 15 minutes. So that pretty much concludes the session, and Quarantine Guinness has put it on pole position, but that's going to be 15th ahead of Kieran Harrison. But a great showing by the SimRC duo. You know, they are a tour de force here. We've seen that with Season 3, there's been an evolution in the competition stakes. Of course, more prize money up for grabs. And, of course, those wonderful prizes courtesy of Next Level Racing, our good friends over in Australia with their simulators to give the champion a prize. And a big thank you to them as well, along with everybody else that supports AMX Global, including you fans that are watching on Twitch and YouTube. But here, Reed, are the results from qualifying.
Yeah, big shout out to everybody who is joining us today, whether you are watching, whether you are racing, or whether you are just hitting us up on social media. Like, nice to have you out here. Nice to have these guys out here. Another Quarantine Guidez pole position. I'm shocked. Not really at all. This guy's putting it up there almost every single race, and you can see why. A 144.8 is an absolute flyer of a lap, and he is up there, like we said earlier, with his SimRC teammate Kieran Harrison in P1, P2 to start things off with our first heat of the day. Fabrizio Belziti, Fabio Zamperlini, and the relative newcomer Dorian Livre is rounding out your top 5. And keep in mind, after the reverse grid, it's going to be Diego Villarreal, Pedro Oliveira, and Mauricio Lozano who will swap it around for our first heat of the night as we get started with a rolling start out onto the Hockenheim ring for heat number 1.
Yeah. It's going to be a very, very exciting first opening heat. So don't forget, folks, after the results of this, top 15 will then reverse again, and we decide to upset Noah's Ark once more. But Diego Villarreal will start on pole position. Pedro Oliveira alongside in the front row. Lozano and Resenje, row 2. Donella and Kulhavi, row 3. Gaspar and Ramos, row 4. Rago and Demori, Lelieva and Zamperlini complete the top 12. We'll have Belziti, Harrison, Guinnez, Guilherme Ribeiro Hauer, and then we'll have Nico Godoy. Tim State has made it onto the grid, so 18 cars. Josh Perween hasn't been able to take the start as Villarreal and Oliveira lead the field out of Sudkurve as we are about to get ready to get steady, and the green flag has flown. We are underway for race 24 of AMX 0 as Villarreal throws it into turn 1 with full velocity as everyone's starting to make their way down in towards the Parabolica. It's going to get very, very close. They've gone through Nordkurve into Einfahrt Parabolica. It's a right and then a quick left. Side by side with Mori and Gaspar and Rago, but Villarreal is having Pedro Oliveira, the Brazilian, in the Sol McLaren closing in. That's the 570S GT4 with a flashing of lights there, possibly from either Kieran Harrison or I think maybe Corentin Guinness, who's only made up 2 places as Oliveira dives through on the inside. So does, now that was Jackson Resenje with a launch up the inside so it's a Brazilian 1-2 on German soil as they head through into the Mercedes arena. Oliveira's got Resenje right up his exhaust pipes, and Villarreal trying to keep holding station in third as it's 3 wide coming through into the arena area.
3 wide. Can you do it? I mean, I guess technically yes. But wow, so much competition and really keeping it clean for the most part. A great start for almost everybody. Some outliers there. Diego Villarreal taking a different line than almost everybody else. But for the most part, this is very competitive racing all the way up to the top. Got Oliveira, Resenje fighting it out. And we're on board with Simon Demori, who is there climbing up into 7th and making a little bit of a run for himself. Plus 3 already on the first out of 9 laps, so looking good so far. Let's go ahead and check out what's happening up towards the top of the grid as we watch everybody drive over us. It's Gerardo Ramos who has climbed his way up into 4th, and look at that, the fastest lap, Pedro Oliveira, 149.5 already. We thought this was qualifying, but no, he is doing it in the real race and making it look good.
Yeah, Villarreal's got Demori to the inside, but that's Jackson Resenje through the Einfahrt Parabolica through for the race lead on lap 2 out of 9. Great job by the Brazilian who started within the top 6, but Villarreal a little bit earlier on the opening lap I noticed had a big old off track and it nearly cut out. That was actually on the run down to Mobile 1. Had a massive tank slapper coming out of the Mercedes AMG arena through the left-hander, went wide, the back end stepped out and pitched him right, nearly into ongoing traffic as the 2 SimRC teammates might not be having that great a run at the moment. Harrison
look at
down
that
to
shove.
17. That was not polite at all. But Corentin Guignez at the moment has made his way up to ninth, so he's got Villarreal to his inside, now has got through, nearly gets a tap from behind courtesy of Belziti in the Mercedes. So it's all out war here at Hockenheim in GT4s, but Simon De Mori closing in on Mauricio Lozano from Mexico for 5th place. You can, even though these are production cars, folks, as now we're going to see a change for the lead again. That's through Sachs curve. That was brave. Resenje around and Kulhavi's taken the lead as a direct result, and Resenje has to wait for everyone to go past. There's been someone caught out as a direct relation to that. Oh, I mean, that was really, really good, I have to say, from Oliveira, but then Resenje went, no you don't, you're not getting past me, and then all of a sudden there was a little bit of, I think maybe a little bit of netcode involved in that. And that just goes to show how quickly things can turn upside down on its head. We're now on lap 3 out of 9.
Only lap 3. We almost made it through 2 laps, Alex, with a flawless performance, but quite a big shakeup down there, and that puts us with only 16 racers remaining on the grid, and really only about 12 or 13 in contention for some good old points. We do pay out to the top 15, so still all to race for at the back of the grid as our drivers pull into the pits and out of it back onto the track. You can still set the fastest lap to get that extra $1 in your pockets, so lots to fight for in the front and the back of the pack. But as our reverse grid sorts itself out, what's going on?
Yeah, I think Belziti's just had a moment. He's dropped down to 12th place. So in the background there was a little bit of action happening, and one of the Mercs was around, but Corentin Guignez started 15th, having secured pole in qualifying. He is now closing on Simon De Mori. That's Oliveira and Belziti. Oh, Oliveira has not had a really good run in this at all. Was battling away with Jackson and Resenje. They came to blows, and now again Oliveira's caught up in an incident that he didn't want to be part of. As here we are on board on the roof cam with Corentin Guignez from Sim RC closing in on Simon De Mori into the first part of Sudkurve. The Frenchman throws it up the inside. That is a very, very clean pass. Very clean pass, and completes the move out of the final corner. So Guignez from 15th to 3rd place. Now the hunt can really begin because he's 1.4 seconds behind. And look at that for a new fastest lap. 1 minute 45.227, about 3/10 off of his pole position lap time in qualifying earlier on.
And yeah, making it look good as we get a picture-in-picture review of exactly what happens when you coordinate things a little bit too well. A little bit of a bump in the back, and it is a double spin into even more carnage in the back. You got to keep things pointing the right way, and that is not what we got a chance to see back there in the back of the field. So that's going to set us up for a little bit more of a segmented race, especially towards the top. We've got Kalavi about 2 seconds ahead out in the future in the lead, so he might be cruising himself onto a win if he can keep that one going. As we hop on board with Simon De Mori, the Austrian driver is doing quite well up in the top 5. He's only 4/10 back of Corentin Guignez, but that is going to be a big 4/10 as we close out the second half, or we enter the second half of our time here in Heat 1. And I like to think of Heat 1 as the appetizer, right? This is where we get a chance to see, okay, what do you got? How are you going to do? And for most of our racers, actually fairly good performances. The newcomer, Lelevre, the Frenchman in 8th, doing quite well to hold his own against guys like Kieran Harrison. And whoa, a little bit dangerous there as we hop on board with Gerardo Ramos, watching Corentin Guignez not content with a plus 12. He is climbing all the way up that top 3 and wants to stand on top of the podium, Alex.
Yeah, well, Guignez was quickest again of anybody in the first 2 opening sectors. Expect a new fastest lap, possibly. Yes, 1:44.929.
Whoa.
He's gone quicker than his fastest lap in qualifying. Whoa. And he's swarming all over the back of the number 69 of Gerardo Ramos. And that's going to be P2 on the run down to turns 2 and 3. Great showcase, as we always have seen. And here is Kieran Harrison. He's made some headway in the meantime. He's up to P6 ahead of Brazil's Lucas Dornella. So that's a good move there from the SimRC driver from the UK, but he's got about 4.1 seconds to close up in on Caio Gaspar, who rounds out the top 5. But Guinness, I'm sure, will be closing in. But folks, the real Triple Crown will be if that Guinness, he's taken pole position in qualifying. If he takes the win and he's got the fastest lap, no one else on this grid has done a 1:44.9. And what's more impressive is that Guinness has done it in both qualifying and Heat 1. Could that happen in Heat 2? You're going to have to wait and find out, as Dornella is not letting Harrison get away in the battle for P6 there, Reed.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Keeping it absolutely close there. The top 5, really, so much action. We're going to be probably following a lot of this as the race goes on. Earlier on, Alex, I was talking about Gaston Calavi and how he might just be able to skateboard his way across the finish line, but that 2-second gap that he had earlier is down to a second as Quarantine Guinness is about to pull off another one of these absolute last to first Cinderella stories, closing in now under a second to the lead.
He was nearly 3/10 quicker than the race leader. That gap is now under a second as we've got 4 to go, including this one. We're on to lap 6 out of 9 here at the Hockenheim Ring, the first of 2 heats. Don't forget, folks, we have heat number 2. It's more of a case of if Guinness takes the win, he's going to be back in 15th. We could see history repeat itself. Could lightning strike twice? Your guess is as good as mine, everybody. But that gap now closing in. That Porsche in that slipstream of that Mercedes through the Parabolica. As you see, picture in picture, there's the onboard from the rear bumper cam. Gaston Coolharvey, and through into the hairpin, Simon De Mori looking to the outside of Gerard Ramos through the Spitzkeller. The Porsche's going to run a little bit wide. They've got Caio Gaspar closing in on their 6 as well, heading into the Mercedes arena. So this is going to be nip and tuck. Ramos stays ahead of Mori for the moment, but the Porsche's got more momentum. Through into the next right-hander, into the left they go, into the Mercedes arena, and Gaspar dives up the inside of De Mori. Nice. That was textbook from the Brazilian, but De Mori's going to have the inside run through out of the Mercedes AMG complex on the run down to Mobile 1. Great exchange there between the 3 of them. As Guinness, heading into Zach's Curva, is right with Coolharvey. The gap now is less than 0.3 of a second, make that less than 2.5 of a second. Guinness is sizing Coolharvey, the Argentinian, up for a move. It won't be at this point, but the good thing is that Guinness can just bide his time here, Reed. He does not need to go all guns blazing with that 718 Cayman. He knows that Coolharvey is feeling the heat, and as they say, can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. Coolharvey has got to defend as if his life depended on it.
Absolutely, he's got to make that back of the car as wide as possible, keep quarantining Guinness back there, but as I say that, he can't do it. Around the inside, a big move from Quarantine Guinness to go up into the lead on lap 7.
Yeah, he took 0.8 out of Coolharvey on that previous lap, but Coolharvey is flashing the lights as if to say, "Oi, what was that?" It's a bit of camaraderie between sim racers. There's an unwritten rule. Yeah. I mean, if you're doing qualifying and there's a car that's slower in front of you, you're fine to flash the lights. But everyone, if you saw what we had with Gaio Valero and Corentin Guinness specifically in TCRs, and Marco will definitely agree with that one wholeheartedly, because we saw some great action, especially at the Red Bull Ring in season 2 last time out, where Guinness and Valero, who said, well, I've got a lot of other commitments at Apex Racing, so I'm not able to join the full season, which is completely understandable, completely fair enough. I'm really excited about this battle between Gerardo Ramos and Simon De Mori. This is for 3rd place on the road. So it is Aston Martin versus Porsche for P3, as we are getting very, very close, folks. We're going to have 2 to go very, very shortly. And Corentin Guinness from 15th on the grid, no surprise from the Sim RC driver, is now leading the way out of Gaston Coolharvey, who have both had a little bit of an off-track on this occasion. Diego Villarreal is very, very close, as is Jackson Desenji, for possibly getting a drive-through for off-tracks. They're on 18 and 19 off-track excursions apiece. Nico Godoy's has gone on to 12, so it is very difficult sometimes with this circuit here. It's very, very fast in the opening sector. You've got to really, really cross the T's, dot the I's. So, including this one, we have got 2 to go as Guiñez now expands that lead. Well, I can't believe I'm saying this. Sector 3 is where Guiñez really makes up the time here, Reed, on the opposition. And he just went 3.5 tenths quicker than Kulharvi in the final sector, put down a 1:45.4. Kulharvi, 1:46.6. So, yeah, we're on for another triple crown possibly tonight here on race 24 with Corentin Guiñez, not only leading by a country mile. It's like he's trying to cross the Franco-German border at the minute, and he's 1.1 seconds up the road from Kulharvi on course for winning Heat 1.
Well, speaking of a country mile, I have to mention a little bit of country statistics as well. We've been focusing on the top of the field, but in the back, my man, Tim State, climbing up. He's +6 right now. He started outside the points, outside the money, and he's managed to climb his way all the way up into 13. Just got to shout out the freedom fighter back there in the back as we flip things back up and check out the battle between Gerardo Ramos and Simon de Mori. Let's take a look at what this looks like in the slipstream there behind the Spaniard. It is Simon de Mori, and he's making a really solid case for himself, closing down into within 3/10. Absolute striking distance as the white flag waves. There is one more lap to go and plenty of time to get this done.
Yeah, Simon de Mori trying to close in on the Spaniard through the Nord curve at turn number 1. And it's the short shoot up here to turns 2 and 3, the Einfahrt Parabolica, so it's a quick right and then a quick left before you then really put the hammer down. Accelerates up the gears to north of 145 miles an hour. Ramos doing a nice little defence there through the second part of the Einfahrt Parabolica, which is basically Einfahrt is entrance, for those wondering from your German to English translation. But yeah, Ramos has kept de Mori at bay very, very convincingly. So our race leader, Corentin Guiñez, goes into the Spitzkeller hairpin. What is going to be the 9th and final time here at Heat 1 of race 24. But look, oh, that's a bit deep from Ramos, and de Mori's through for 3rd.
Waiting for the final half of the final lap, and what is going to transpire here? We've got about half of it left to play for, and it's all up in the front. In the back also, we got Diego Villarreal and Facundo Rago battling it out, so we'll see if that goes down to the wire as well. But really, Gerardo Ramos, this guy has got to pull the trigger now. He's let Simon de Mori back, and I don't know if he has what it takes to kind of bring this back. He is falling a little bit further and further behind, and this is going to be one of the first top 3. This is the first podiums for Simon de Mori if he can hold on for the last final seconds of heat number 1. I think he's got this. The race winner will be coming across, and Corentin Guiñez has gone back to front.
Yeah, 15th to 1st, plus fastest lap of the race. Corentin Guiñez wins Heat 1 of race 24. Second, Gaston Kulharvi. Well done to Austria's Simon de Mori, pipping Gerardo Babio Ramos from Spain. Kieran Harrison making it from 14th to 5th place at the end of the race. So great job by the Brit. Lucas Donella in 6th. Mauricio Lozano, Mexico's finest, and the number 8 takes 7th, having started on 3rd position. Lelievre from France, 8th, ahead of Fabrizio Belziti. Nico Godoy, is that me, or has he actually got a top 10 finish? He has. Well, that's one for the books there for Nico Godoy. He managed to profit despite qualifying a little bit further down. But yeah, Corentin Guiñez again does a number on the opposition. So folks, that means that Corentin Guiñez at this moment in time has $15 to his credit. $7 for pole position, $7 for a win, and what's more, the fastest lap of the race. And he takes the win by nearly 2.5 seconds out of Gaston Kulharvi, Simon de Mori, Gerard Ramos, and Kieran Harrison round out the top 5. Lucas Donella, the top driver of the DHR crews, in 6th, ahead of Mauricio Lozano, Dorian Lelievre, Fabrizio Belziti, and Nico Godoy running at the top 10. Facundo Rago, Diego Villarreal, Guilherme Ribeiro, Tim State, Jackson Resenge, Pedro Oliveira, Fabio Zampolini, and Caio Gaspar rounding out the grid. But everyone, I think, made it over the minimum requirement to score dollars or fractions of dollars. But that, Reed, was a fantastic way to start off race day 24, and we've got another race to come, and it's all been flipped over again, hasn't it?
That's right. Double reverse grid, Alex, as we come into heat number 2. A rolling start here to get things started. We flip things up again, and that means it looks good for the front line. The American Tim State up there with Jackson Resenje, making it look good on the front of the grid. Diego Villarreal and Guillermo Hauer right behind him, and a Nico Godoy up there in 6th with Facundo Rago on the 3rd row of the grid. Some really cool faces to see up here, along with newcomer Dorian Lievre. I'm doing my best, okay? Fabrizio Belziti up there with him on the 4th row of the grid. And towards the back, we did have the reverse grid put guys like Corentin Guinness, like Kieran Harrison, all the way back to the back to see if they can make another back-to-front trip around the Hockenheim Ring. Let's go ahead and get things started as we are speeding up. The revs are rising as we go racing for the second heat of the day. Let's see if we can keep it on the track, pointed forward around the first and what will be maybe the final curve for a few of our racers. We've seen some good racing so far. Let's keep it nice and clean. And right as I say that, Ribeiro gets the worst end of things.
Not just him, but also that, Tim States dropped it in the McLaren. Jackson Resenje down to 16th from pole position in that race. But it's it's a trio of Argentinians, and Nico Godoy, hip checks Belziti into the hairpin on the opening lap, but they both get away with it. Godoy's going to lose a handful of places. Got to shoot the hairpin. Ouch.
Yeah, that's going to hurt, and it's going to require either driving damaged or a trip back to the pit lane. Not the way you want to start this race. Let's hop on board with Kieran Harrison, a guy that's actually very good defensive driver, able to stay out of trouble early on and really fight his battles later on, not willing to throw it away early. So, for Lucas Dornello, who we're watching right now, he's in the solid middle of the pack, but he is in good company. Simon Demore right behind him, and Nico Godoy right ahead, so a little bit of a danger zone as we see what Nico Godoy can do. Another spin will send the Frenchman Lievre and Dornella off into the back of the pack as Gerardo Ramos and Nico Godoy charge through, avoiding the carnage.
Well, that was Dornella, who was actually spinning backwards through the Sachs curve, and that's got a steep elevation change as well. There's a bit of a bump at the top of the crest in that corner. Very adverse camber down to the left-hand side, but Facundo Rago, Fabrizio Belziti, leader at Argentinian 1-2. Kieran Harrison is up to 3rd. Corentin Guinness is now 7th and closing in on the likes of Simon Di Mori, Gerardo Ramos. Nico Godoy, at the moment, finished P10 in the previous heat, is currently pulling away from Ramos in 4th at the moment, with Guilherme Ribeiro down in the number 666 as don't tell me you're going to go 3 wide into the hairpin. Guinness is going to spin it, and he is through on Ramos, through on Demori. Is he going to get the traction? Yes, he will, and he cuts off the front of the Porsche of Demori to close in onto Godoy. Now, these 4 cars are covered by less than half a second, folks, as now into the Mercedes-AMG arena they'll go. Guinness just biding his time. Very, very strategic driver is the Frenchman, but knows when he needs to get aggressive, and now he's getting aggressive. Look at that launch up the inside of Nico Godoy, and that is Guinness up 11 places by nearly the end of lap number 2, as Facundo Rago and Fabrizio Belziti are being closed on him by Kieran Harrison, but the train being led quite clearly by Corentin Guinness. Godoy launches it up the inside of Mori through the cover, and Demori is off the circuit and down the order.
He is going Yeah, Villarreal is going to join Simon Demori, and that is not where he wants to be. He is out of here, and we'll have to take a trip back to the pits the hard way. Still watching the rise. Meteoric, Quarantine Ganez. He is charging up the field, and can anything stop him? He is in fourth right now after only 3 laps. He's got plenty of time to keep this run going.
Yeah, well, Kieran Harrison has now taken second position ahead of Fabrizio Balziti in the number 18 Mercedes, which does have the fastest lap now. There have been a couple of lap invalidations I've seen on the live timing, folks. So there is the case that, yeah, I know for a fact that, well, Corentin Guignez has just been faster over all 3 sectors, but that lap time has not yet registered. The battle for the race lead is going to be closed in on by Guignez, who went 22.9 in the first sector, 49.1 in sector 2, and a 33.4 in sector 3. So personal best for the Frenchman all the way along. And there he is. Look, that gap is closing. That was at one point the best part of over 3.5 seconds. It's now down to 2.8 as Harrison is trying to put the feeders out on Facundo Arago to take the race lead here on lap 3 out of 9. So they're going to make their way through into the right-hand sweeper into Mobile 1. And it's going to be hard on the brakes, turn it in, rotate the car through out of Sachs Curva. But Harrison just waiting for, I think, the last double right-hander. So once they come through out of Sachs Curva, we saw from what Guignez was able to do in the sister Sim RC Porsche, running in the Team Bernhard 75 livery. There's the change for the race lead as Kieran Harrison gets through the first part of Sud Curva. Pundorago flashing the lights to say, hey, you weren't meant to take the lead. Well, Harrison just is showing him a bit of a clear pair of heels right about now.
Now it looks like, Quarantine Ganez is pitting right now. I believe what's happening is that there was a black flag out on the race, and that was what Quarantine Ganez is serving right now. I think he might have been flagged for something, but I'm not sure exactly what he is on about right now. We were about to watch an absolutely incredible last to first, but unfortunately we couldn't clear the black flag in time, and now he is out of there. So I'm not sure exactly what caused that. We did see a lot going on, but I thought he was having a pretty clean race, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, it also depends on what the system software has done. I mean, if it was pinged for a possible full start, that can happen. And then you get black flagged if you don't serve the mandatory penalty that's been dictated by. And we're going to see, oh, this is Gaston Kulharvi. This is the Spitzker. He gets pinged by one of the McLarens, possibly Pedro Oliveira, up the inside, bang, and the Merc has spun around. And he's trying to spin the rear wheels up, and yeah, McLaren into Mercedes. Two does not go into one at that point in the circuit, and then there's a bit of afters with the McLaren getting an assist from the Villarreal's back wing and back bumper to boot.
Yeah, crazy. I don't. We haven't had that happen so far this season, so I'm a little bit curious about the exact technicality of that. We'll try to figure that out. Obviously, you can't multitask too much. We've got our top men and women on the case at the moment, so bear with us. We might have some more to say about that a little bit later on. So, well, you really cannot predict what's going to happen, Alex. No matter what it looks like, anything can change, and indeed it does. So, in the meantime, while we figure out what's going on there, we do have a lot to talk about from the top 5 as Kyle Gaspar, now a new challenger to that top 5, trying to break into it and actually going 10ths faster every single curve. So I'm excited as now Kieran Harrison, I believe, might be befalling a very similar fate.
Yeah, that's really, really weird. That's the first time I have ever seen that in all of the time that AMX Global has been going, with Beta Season 1, Beta Season 1.5, Season 2, and now Season 3. I've never seen that where we have had 2 cars from the same outfit have problems, which is really, really weird. So whether Kieran Harrison has had a drama or he's been disqualified from the server, a black flag doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get DQ'd. If there's been a transgression or something the system software has picked up on iRacing, that is very, very weird, because now that's put Kieran Harrison out, Simon Di Mori out, Guilherme Ribeiro, Dorian Lelievre out, and also Josh Perween, who was due to take the start and also take part in qualifying. There was no activity from the number one in the Porsche to get that. So that to me has really, I wouldn't say it hasn't soured the race. It's just made a bit of a posing and pertinent question needing to be asked on why both Guiñez and Harrison have both come into strife, as Kaya Gaspar now has the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 45.590. So unfortunately, Corentin Guiñez, who has put it, he's done it again. He's done another 144.9. Where has Guiñez found some magical spell or something to help that number, that Porsche, to do exactly the same? So he's done a 144.9 in qualifying, 144.9 in Heat 1, and a 144.9 in Heat 2. That is ridiculous consistency when it comes to fastest laps.
Yeah, I'm right on the same page with you, Alex. This guy's, pumping the NOS in. He's trying to, need for speed his way back into the top 10. And let's just put this in perspective, right? This guy would essentially be not only the Triple Crown winner if he can make it all the way back up the order again, but he'd be like a quadruple crown winner, because he went last to first, and now he's going to have to do it twice in the same race. He's going to do it again. He's going to overtake into the top 10, and he's about to do Gaston Calavi around the inside of the very next turn. I don't know what can stop this man, the monster, in the back of the pack for now, but for how long? Quarantine is seemingly unstoppable, putting up faster and faster laps, and seemingly a man on a mission, possessed to make up his stolen glory.
Yeah, well, we just saw picture-in-picture down in the bottom right-hand corner, Dorian Lelievre getting punted by Nico Godoy, not just once, but it was more than once. And then Simon Di Mori is trying to go around the outside of Lelievre's Aston Martin in the back right of the Porsche, got caught out. So they both ended up in the pit lane. So Lelievre has been in there for over 6 minutes, but Colharvey has been passed by Guiñez, who's up to 9th. Got 3 to go, including this one. They do say never, but you look at the gaps, like, say, between Gerardo Ramos and Facundo Rago, it's going to be an Argentinian and a Team 1-2 at the front end. The gap between Facundo Rago and Gerardo Ramos is now 4.5 seconds, approximately. So Guiñez, even if he gets past Ornella, which he's going to do now, there you go, up to 8th goes the Frenchman. That's a gap of 4 seconds. I've seen miraculous feats on sim racing being carried out, but if Lozano and Resenje start battling away, then this is going to help close that gap, and it was close to 4 seconds. It's now 3.6 and could dip depending on the sector times. I'm looking at them now. Mauricio Lozano 23.4, Resenje 23.0, Guiñez high 22.8 in sector 1, and then Guiñez has just absolutely mullered the pair of them. He's just done a 48.7, Resenje 49.3, Mauricio Lozano 49.5 in sector number 2. So, and that gap's coming down rapidly. So, I would say I'm gonna say it like this: Guiñez, I think, will be as high as 6 by the checkered, but he won't get into the top 5. I think the gap between Lozano and Gaspar will be too much of a mountain to climb, even at this late stage of the race.
I'm going to be the one that says never say never. And just by way of announcement, apparently, I think I'm pretty sure this is what happened. There was a spin on race start, and if you overtake during that, you get black flagged earlier. So I think we actually have a replay of exactly what happened that caused these penalties to be assessed earlier, and we might be able to take a look at that to get a better view of kind of what happened at the beginning of the race to cause some of those mysterious penalties. So here's the racing incident towards the front, and what you're going to see at the very beginning is the car on your screen right now is going to spin out. So there it is. So loses the rear end, goes around back, and that creates a spin. Now, if you spin out during the race start, you're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 cars pass. And then when you do that, that's the incident that's going to get you black flagged. Even though it's not the end of the race, it's not actually even that debilitating of a moment.
The thing was, it was Tim State that got punted. He was on the outside of the front row, let's not forget. He finished 14th in Heat 1. So, yeah, it was contact in the lead up to the start. So I'm trying to remember who was on the outside of the front row. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. Yeah, it wasn't Corentin Guignez. I'm just trying to remember now. Well, Tim State was second. Who was it on first? I'm trying to remember now. You know when things just happen so quickly, and you just go, "What on earth happened here?" It was Jackson Resenge. So Resenge, I'm not too sure if he was the catalyst for causing that incident, but we still have a race to run as we're on to the white flag lap. So there is Gerardo Ramos ahead of fabulous Fabio Zampellini with Caio Gaspar. This is going to be the battle for the final step on the rostrum, and Guignez has lost out time to Lozano, who's got Resenge ahead of him. So Guignez might be 7th at the flag, but we're heading down into the hairpin for the final time. Belziti now leads ahead of Facundo Rago. And then this three-way scrap, 2 Aston Martins and a Mercedes. So Zampellini, Gaspar trying to put the frighteners on each other, let alone Gerardo Ramos, who's on course to possibly picking up another well-deserved top 4 finish. But it's the 2 Argentinians, the 2 teammates, that are leading the way into the final few moments of AMX 0 Race 24 here at the Hockenheim Ring. Been some great GT4 action. Intermobile won the final time on lap 9 of 9. And Belziti has a gap ahead of his teammate Facundo Rago. About 4/10 going into Zach's curve, and then it's going to be run through this twisty chicane on the run to Sudkurva. There is a drag strip actually located on the outskirts of the double right-hander, but it is going to be a win. It's not going to be Corentin Guignez getting the double crown, but it's going to be a teammate side by side close to being, well, Facundo Rago takes the win on the final tour, and Belziti takes 2nd, Ramos takes 3rd, Zampellini with 4th, and the 2 Argentinian teammates come together coming through the Nord cover at turn 1. I think one was trying to activate the donuts and the other one went, "Oh, well, I'll do that too," and probably missed the breaking point there, Reed. That's one way to try and celebrate. You whack your teammates out of the first corner after the check-in.
Yeah, that's find how do you do at the end. And after the checkered flag, all's fair in games in love and war after the flag flies. So you have a wide variety of celebration antics there. Some honorable mentions there, even though we did have quite an upset due to those black flags. We'll talk about that a little bit later on once we have some more information. That is going to do it for the race. So regardless of up, down, and all around, this is the final standings for heat number 2, and in fact the final heat for AMX 0 today, with Facundo Rago, Fabrizio Belziti, a 1-2 from Voracious Racing Team up there at the top, with Gerardo Ramos rounding out your podium in 3rd. In the number 69, the Spaniard is once again up at the very top of the roster with Fabio Zampellini, who I believe placed out of the points in the previous heat, finds himself up in 4th with Caio Gaspar, rounding out the top 5.
Yeah, then we had Jackson Resenge from Canani Sports Brazil, 6th, ahead of Mauricio Lozano, Corentin Guignez, Gaston Colharvey, Lucas Dornella, who was backwards at one point through the sacked curve, finishing in 10th place, ahead of Nico Godoy, Diego Villarreal. Your boy Tim State did it again. He got into the top 13, Reed, so that was a pretty good effort, even though he did get punted before the formation actually got going at the Hockenheim Ring. And we had Pedro Oliveira. We then had Kieran Harrison. Of course, the black flag situation, I think, is unfortunate, but They need to keep it a little bit cleaner at the front end of the field if they're going to go out of the final turn. You don't want antics like that happening, and obviously with the rule book that's going to dictate that if you do take somebody out on the formation, believe you me, you will get heavily punished for that. So I think it's lesson learned by whoever punted Tim State in towards the final corner on the start.
We're going to investigate that and take a look at exactly what happened, who's at fault, and especially due to our new partnership with KARA, that's the ASN for the FIA in Korea, where AMX is located. We'll be checking that out and making sure that we have a better understanding of exactly what happened there at the race start. Obviously, that's not a situation we really encounter all that often. In fact, I think this is the first time that we're having that happen. So we'll check it out and see what we can do about that as we understand it a little bit more. Either way, shout out to a lot of the, we had some new faces join us for AMX Zero. A lot of people coming out, getting a taste of what's going on here. And it's really a great opportunity to join for free into a field that contains some of the best racers in the world doing some really amazing things. And we got a chance to see that today, Alex, as we watched Quarantine Guinness, Kieran Harrison, and a whole host of amazing racers do some amazing things. And spoiler alert, we've got more of that coming up in just a few minutes as we get into AMX 10. $10 to enter and even more competition, as I believe we are taking GT3s around Catalonia.
Yeah, a fantastic circuit, the home of the the Spanish Grand Prix, but also in 1992, host of the Summer Olympic Games that year. It's hosted MotoGP, World Superbikes, also quite recently, since 2017, the GT World Challenge, Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS, also the European Le Mans Series. It's a great track. It's one that does also provide something very different. With GT3s, anywhere between 5 to 550 horsepower, it is going to be absolutely brilliant. You are not going to want to miss AMX 10 tonight, because we've got 2 heats, we've got reverse grids, we've got qualifying. You don't want to miss it, folks.
And in the meantime, before we have that coming your way, make sure to hit the links right down below the screen. We've got social media, and we'd love to hear what you have to say on Twitter and Instagram. We're also posting highlights, announcements, updates, everything you guys want to keep an eye on for Season 3. It's going to be out there on social media. So give us a follow at AMX_Global on Twitter, and then AMX Global on Instagram as well. And we'd love to see your support on our streams on YouTube and Twitch. So drop a follow or a subscription if you feel so led. We'd certainly appreciate your support there. And if you'd like to join the AMX Global community, you can do that by joining the AMX Global Discord by Googling AMX Global Discord or finding the link at amxrace.com, which conveniently is where you can also sign up to join us for any of the races we have left this season, and they are running out. We started with 72, and we're already down to around 25, so really cutting it down as we get into the hinterland of Season 3. So limited time to get out here and join us. We hope you do that by heading over to amxrace.com. And while you guys are busy doing that, we're going to take a quick break before we come back with AMX 10, our final series of the night. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with AMX 10.
to save our home. We must travel through the gateway to find new energy.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are coming to you live from above Montmeló, Barcelona, Catalonia, Spain, for a trip around the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia, for our final race of the night. It's AMX 10, the pinnacle of competition in AMX Global League Season 3, and we will be racing GT3s around one of the most iconic Iberian circuits there are out there. It's going to be a good night of racing, an even better night of racing. We did have some shenanigans earlier that we'll continue to take a look at. Let's go ahead and restart things. Clear your mind as we get into what is another amazing race in AMX Global League Season 3. And to make it even more amazing, we are now joined by our, I guess I can't even call you new anymore because you've been out here before. Evan, welcome back.
Pleasure to be back. Yeah, this is my second week. I survived the first one, so we're here again for the second. It's a pleasure to be back here at Barcelona, Spain. Probably wish it was Barcelona, Spain outside with the weather, but yeah, pleasure to be here. We have some GT3s cars coming up, which are fabulous cars to watch, fabulous cars to race, and hopefully fabulous cars to commentate on.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Alex, you've cut your teeth on quite a bit of GT3 action. We do have some of the best drivers out there competing today. How do you think that's going to fare here in Barcelona?
Well, firstly, Reed, we're going to have 5 figures worth of horsepower charging into turns 1 and 2, and that is going to be both very, very visceral, because the noise that you're all going to hear on the broadcast tonight is going to be about, you know, like the word Spinal Tap used to say, crank it to volume number 11. It's going to be like that extra shift forward. You know, these cars are very, very heavily aero dependent. There's a balance of performance, so it's anywhere between 5 to 550 brake horsepower. And these are absolute brutes, and you know what? It's the top tier. It's the pinnacle of sports car racing, not just IRL, but also here on AMX Global for Season 3.
Yep, absolutely. And we're going to get started with AMX 10 in just a second, but we have a little bit of housekeeping to do first as we break down what's going on this season and show you what we're racing for here. If you're new to AMX Global League Season 3, let me break it down and show you what we got going on. 3 months, September 20th to December 10th, and we are over halfway through, so you got to get out there and get in. Get out there and get in here simultaneously. Phrasal verbs. $25,000 on the line, and the most races in a year of any tournament out there. 72 total, and we're bringing you a lot of unique cars and track combinations to really keep things fresh. And to keep things even fresher, we have by far the most unique race format out there. If you guys have other suggestions, let us know. But for now, this is the way we're doing it. Qualifier, 15 minutes, and then 2 15-minute heats, all separated by 2 top 15 reverse grids to really mix things up and give everybody a chance to fight for something. Whether you're fighting for the lead or you're fighting for that 15th place to get the flip up into the lead. There's a lot going on in Qualifier, Heat 1, Heat 2, and it's been a great way to run the season so far with a lot of exciting action, and I'm expecting no less as we get into AMX 10 for today. If you are racing in AMX 10, you are required to turn on your video camera. I guess webcam is more accurate. You can also video camera yourself, but join via the video link on Discord in the AMX Global Discord, or you can join via the information on our website, amxrace.com. On amxrace.com, not only can you sign up to race, but you can also fill out your payment details, and we will pay you out every balance over $100 every month. And with $600 on the line in every AMX 10 race, that is not that hard to do. And of course, you can see the race days out there: Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday if you are in the Americas region, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday in Europe, and Thursday, Sunday, Monday in Asia. If you are in America, here's when we go racing. On Wednesdays, it starts things off at 6:50 p.m., 8:20 p.m. for AMX 10, and then we're starting a little bit before noontime on Saturday and Sunday. In the Americas region, AMX 10 starts at 1:20 p.m. a little bit after that. And if you're outside America and you want to go racing in Europe, this is a look at our brand new EUCET, Central European Time, as we have rolled the clocks back an hour, which means we are starting a little bit after midnight for some late night racing on Thursday. And on the weekend, it's 550, some evening racing on Saturday and Sunday. AMX 10, of course, starting at 7:20 p.m. there in Europe. And yeah, we'd love to have you out here. Whatever time you can race, come out, and it's going to be a good time. We're not just racing here for fun. We do have a very large prize pool, $601, just so that we can say it's more than $600. No, I don't know why it just worked out that way. $601 on the line, which means $40 for each of qualifiers, Heat 1, Heat 2, and we're going all the way down the roster, 15th place, getting paid out $5 for the fastest lap for Heat 1 and Heat 2. So, of course, a lot on the line. And a reminder down there in the bright red, you are required to turn on your camera and join the video link in Zoom. Not that hard to find. It's in the announcements channel. You'll be right. We're not just racing for money. We are, of course, also racing for an FGT Elite sim rig from our friends at Next Level Racing. Next Level Racing has partnered with us to give one of their best quality sim rigs to the AMX 10 champion. Not a pretty penny. You know, this is not a small prize by any means, and so in order to keep an eye on who is in the running for this FGT Elite from Next Level Racing, we're going to go ahead and check out what it looks like to be racing in AMX 10 this season. It is it's a little bit competitive. I don't want to spoil it, but this is the way it looks. Quarantine Guinness, 4 races. You know, I want to say that he's raced more than 4 times because hear me out here, guys. Either way, he's won over $1,000. That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, considering the fact it should be the other way around, I think they read 17 raced and 4 wins, but then
no.
Too far behind him.
No, Alex, obviously we've entered the 4th dimension. 4 races, 17 wins. That's what it takes. That's what it takes to win in AMX 10.
You guys think you're good enough to multiverse transponder?
Okay, this looks a little bit better to me. Or does it? Yes, it does. Okay, never mind. Forget everything I said. This is a look at the average power rankings. We give you money based on placements, and that's how we figure out your average power level. And if you're looking at the numbers of races raced and it seems low to you this time, it's right. Because we've had some incredible performances in AMX 10 by some of the best racers to ever do it. Most recently, Jose Soria joined for the first time in Formula 3s and dominated for his first trip out onto the track at AMX 10, and really incredible performances by him, Enzo Benito, Chris Lullam, and also a relative newcomer, Balash Tarochi, there in 4th. 1 race, $70 picked up. That's what it looks like to be absolutely badass in iRacing and do it really well. So very, very impressive drivers. And that's why this is the pinnacle of competition in AMX Global League Season 3. If you would like to join AMX 10 and you don't want to put the $10 in for a limited time only, you can join for free. If you're fast enough to be one of the first 10 signups on AMXRace.com, you can get into AMX 10 for free and put yourself out on the track racing for over $600 in prize pools. Normally, it does cost $10 to enter because the prize pool is pretty high. I think you'll agree that's pretty fair. But for a limited time only, we are letting in the top 10 signups. The first 10 signups. So it's a little bit like a little bit of a race for a race. If you want to get into the raceception there, make sure to get out there. It's for a limited time only. And sign up. Join us here for AMX 10. Now, we are going to get started, so I'm going to turn things over to Evan to break down where we're racing. And after that, Alex can show us what we are taking out onto this beautiful track.
Yeah, the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, located in a little small town called Montemelo, first opened in 1991 and has been a dominant feature on the Formula 1 calendar for 32 consecutive seasons. It's a 4.657 kilometre circuit. There's different variations of it, some with chicanes, some without hairpins, but the one we'll be racing on this evening has 14 corners and a very long straight. From the start line to turn 1, it's about 579 metres, but it's a challenging circuit, has slow, medium and fast speed corners, so we're going to get hopefully plenty of overtaking.
I'm just enjoying the scenic views, vistas. Okay, it's time. Not just the Ferrari, but a whole host of GT3s out here. What can we look forward to, Alex?
Well, we're looking forward to cars that will be significantly lighter, heavily aero-dependent, anywhere between 1,200 and 1,300 kilograms. Rear-wheel drive, 6-speed sequential gearboxes with DOPs showing the output to be anywhere between 5 to 600 brake horsepower. Brands such as Lamborghini, Porsche, Ferrari, even the plucky BMW that actually holds the lap record around here, courtesy of the UK's Dan Harper, 1 minute 40.905 in race lap record trim back at the Barcelona GT Winter Series earlier on this season. A whole host of manufacturers have been part of the pantheon of GT3 sports car racing, of course, with SRO, the Stefan Rattel organisation, celebrating 30 years of racing last year in 2022. And GT3 is the top tier, the pinnacle of sports car racing when it comes to these brutes around a formidable circuit such as the circuit of Barcelona Catalunya tonight. And I'm really looking forward to two fantastic action-packed races. But of course, qualifying is where we're really going to see everyone put the pedal to the metal here tonight for AMX 10, Reed, I think.
I would concur. Excellent analysis as always. And as we start to hear the engine revs rise, we are realizing that it's not just the cars or the tracks, but indeed the sounds of what are some of the best engines out there. Love to hear the roar as we head around our first, actually second of 15 minutes in qualifiers. So we're going to be doing a little bit of a tri-cast here and trying to make it work, but I'm optimistic and I hope everybody else out there enjoys not only the sights and sounds of the cars, but also us as we take you through qualifiers. And we do actually have quite a few members on the grid here, not the least of which is Kieran Harrison, who, if you see a little bit of extra color in his face, it is because it was a rough time for Kieran specifically in AMX 0 a little bit earlier here. So he is a man on a mission trying to get a little bit of vengeance and put a dominant performance out there on the track. So let's see what it looks like in qualifying. Evan, take us through what it looks like for a lap on Barcelona.
Yeah, so you're coming into turn 10 here, which has multiple variations of it. Of course, it's been a little bit changed in real life compared to is now here. But Harrison was actually quite quick in the hour practice session. Obviously, he did race in AMX Series, so he didn't quite have the full practice session, but he is in the most popular choice of car, which is the Ferrari. So rounding through the final couple of corners now, in through the chicanes and round through the final corner and onto a long start finish straight. Now this Ferrari of course has 550 brake horsepower. It's a good balance on the car. It's not necessarily the quickest in a straight line, as Harrison does go to the top, pulls over to the right hand side, but is instantly beaten by the king of the Triple Crown or something, I think he's been called earlier, Quarantine Ganez.
It's fair to say. He did get Triple Crown in AMX 0. I don't know if that's quite on the same level as AMX 10. But he had Chris Lullum from Team Redline pull a Triple Crown a little bit earlier in AMX 10 last week. So it's been some impressive racing this season. And I guess while you may have missed out on a little of that, Alex, you're here for what looks like an absolute banger of a roster, as we have almost 20 cars ready to go for us here in AMX 10 today.
Yeah, we're going to have north of 20 cars, I think, judging by the live timing that you, myself, and Evan are looking at the moment. But Quarantine Guignez leading the way. It's a Sim RC 1-2. Lizakowski is in third, so it's a triple of Cavallino Rampantes. Effectively, that's the Italian for prancing horses at the sharp end of the grid. But Fabrizio Belziti, Caio Gaspar upholding the honour for Porsche in fourth and fifth, with Simon De Mori, Mauricio Lozano, Pedro Dean, and the returning Gael Valero, who has opted to go into, of all cars, folks, you don't see it very often nowadays in iRacing, is the Ford GT40 GT3, and he's currently put that in on ninth on the grid, ahead of the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo, Pedro Oliveira in the 87, who rounds out the top 10. Very, very close between the top 10 at the moment, just under 1.4 seconds, but Guignez, again, just showcasing why he's the one to really try and beat here out on the circuits at AMX 0 and AMX 10. But yeah, between him and Kieran Harrison, You know, when you've got the 3-litre twin-turbo V6 Ferrari 296 GT3, it is going to be a case of seeing who ends up best. But then, of course, the rasp of that 4-litre flat-six boxer engine from the Porsches is also a nice thing to hear as well, as we've got Belziti from the voracious sim racing team coming out of the final corner and does not improve on that lap, so remains at P4 at the moment as the Argentinian. As Facundo Rago, his teammate in the number 8, goes across the line to make it 3 Porsches in the top 6, 4 in total, but it is a bit of a Ferrari meritocracy at the moment, with 60% of the top 10 being occupied by 296s at the minute.
All right, Evan, as you've been watching qualifiers, I think Alex did a great job breaking it down there. It's a SimRC 1-2, and we might just see this a little bit more commonly this season, as they have Guinness and Harrison have really distanced themselves. Kind of surprised to see Gael Valero run out in the Ford, like Alex mentioned earlier. But a lot of times we'll have members of Team Redline Racing. There's always at least 1 or 2 Fords there just to add the extra challenge. Out of the makes that we have on the grid today, there is quite a bit of variety. Is this what you expect to see, Evan, or have you noticed anything else out there as we've finished the first half of qualifiers?
Well, you're always going to get some sort of variety in GT3 because all the cars are so different to drive. Different drivers will like different things. Some people will like the Italian cars, some will like the Porsches. As if you did hear a noise, apologies, completely dropped my computer mouse. But it's the Ford is an interesting car, and I like seeing that we have at least one here this evening, because Ford built that car with one goal in mind, and that was to win Le Mans. Now, Le Mans is a very different track here to Barcelona, so it's going to be interesting to see how that car performs. But no, the variety is great to see. I think any racing fan loves to see the variety, and yeah, it's nice to have different sounding engines for once, because obviously on iRacing you do a lot of stock cars, you do your F3s, you do your Mazda MX Cups, you do all that sort of thing. It's nice to see the variety, and that's what AMX provides. It provides that variety. But in terms of qualifying so far, interesting to see Belziti up close to the top. He's not won a race this season, of course. He's done the same amount of races as Valero, who we consider one of the best here at AMX. I think it's safe to say he's one of the best anyways. He's a very diverse driver, of course, does very well on the Gran Turismo platform as well. Some people are going to probably turn off the fact I've just compared apologies, iRacing to Gran Turismo, but
you monster, how dare you.
Yeah, I know. That might get me fired potentially.
You just got here 2 races ago, and now you're already out of here. Evan, I expected... No, we have nothing but forgiveness here. So we're on board with Gael Valero, the sole Ford racer for today. If I'm not mistaken, are there any others? No, yeah, he's the only big blue oval. So, really setting a benchmark not only as the only Ford driver, but also as one of the best drivers that we've had, and of course possessing that big black bar, 9.5K I rating, and a world championship license. It's a little bit difficult to obtain. Alex, not everybody's going to be up there with Gael.
No, I mean, Gael in the Ford GT40 at the moment is currently 14th in qualifying. 1.37 separates everybody, as Corentin Guiñez has punched the hammer down again in the number 19 Ferrari. 1 minute 44.6. So here we have Pedro Oliveira in the 87. Great to also have the 5.2 litre naturally aspirated V10 Raging Bull around this circuit as well. So that's one of the things I love about GT3s, is you get this sort of smorgasbord of different engine and drivetrain configurations, where you see cars like the Ferrari, like the Lamborghini, like the Ford, which are mid-mounted rear-wheel drive, and then you see cars such as the BMW, which is from the factory is a 3-litre, the twin power turbo, as they like to call it, the BMW, and it's a flat 6, and then you've got the 4-litre flat 6 in the back of the Porsches. So and then you look at other cars, some that aren't here tonight, including the Mercedes-AMG GT3, which has a 6.3 litre V8 shoehorned under that long snout. So We're going to see Pedro Oliveira come out of the final corner. He's currently 9th at the moment and does improve. That's a good run there in the 87 Lamborghini. He's gone P6 behind Zampolini.
Indeed, he has. Top 5 for Zampolini is not bad. And these are GT3s, right? So absolutely one of the most popular common cars out there. So you're going to expect a little bit more experience from our racers here today than you would if we're racing something a little bit more niche, if you will. I'm doing my best here. Quarantine Guinness slapping it on pole again with an absolutely monstrous 1:44.6. I don't know. We got about 3.5 minutes left here, guys. Evan, how optimistic are you that we might see an upset at the wire?
I'm very optimistic. In fact, I think we can see a bit of an up. It's going to take a lot to take it off Guinness, but Kieran Harrison not too far behind. However, unfortunately, here is 6/10 back to 3rd place. So the two SimRC guys are absolutely storming it at the front. They're both in the Ferraris. It's a Ferrari 1, 2, 3, which the Scuderia and the Tifosi will be delighted of. But Guinness, he's an expert qualifier. Of course, we do reverse grid, so he might find it a little bit more challenging to cut through the field. These GT3s, of course, you can overtake in them, but it can be difficult at times. Barcelona does provide a lot of overtaking opportunities, such as here into the Repsol corner of turn number 4, maybe even a late lunge down the inside in towards turn number 5. We all know that these guys here in AMX love a little bit of a late lunge, so we might see moves like that. But across the board, it's fairly close. It's fairly close in the middle of the pack as well, with your Zamperlinis, you have your Gaspars, Olivieras. It's all close, sort of in that mid-range, but I think it's between the two SimRC guys for pole, certainly. But the race is what I'm optimistic about.
Yeah, I can absolutely understand hopping on board with Fabio Zamperlini as we come through the final 2 minutes of qualifiers. Just enough time to slide across the finish line one more time, see if there's any improvements to be had. I didn't get a chance to check out his sectors, but if you look at the bottom, we've got Tim State. Now, I'm not just talking about him because he is American. It's also because he had a little bit of trouble getting into the session. And if you're not aware, you can actually join AMX 10 or AMX 0 at any point during the qualifying session. So he got in here right at the wire, and we'll see if he can put up a time, get himself on the board, and start from somewhere on the grid, as he is making up a few green sectors. Well, mostly because he hasn't put up any times there. So walk us through final steps in this qualifying, Alex. Seems like Fabio Zamperlini is pretty solid up there in the top 6.
Yeah, he hasn't improved over all 3 sectors, but he's got the opportunity if he just about chances it. We're seeing a lot of drivers improve the sharp end of the field. Kieran Harrison, Rodrigo Lizikowski, Kaya Gaspar, Fabrizio Belziti's just put in a personal best, 2/100ths behind the Brazilian and the number 11. So again, that top 3 Ferrari meritocracy continues to have its ugly grasp around the 23 drivers around this circuit at the moment. But yeah, Tim State improving lap after lap. Of course, he's about 65-70% of the way through the lap, but it looks like qualifying, a lot of drivers are deciding to return to garage. But as I say that, well, Jackson Resenje in the number 17, the top placed BMW in qualifying, puts it P9 on a 1:45.566. Of course, yeah, the balance of performance has really been favouring the Ferrari 296 GT3. Of course, won its first major endurance race at the ADAC 24 Hours of the Nürburgring Nordschleife in the hands of Fricadelli Racing, the home of the late Sabine Schmitz, who was very much a feature of the ring taxi around the Nordschleife. But qualifying has been completed, and that is, as they say, is that. And we got 2 exciting GT3 races, but Quarantine Guinness again for the 2nd event in a row for race day 24 has put it on pole position, and that nets him cool $40. So folks, AMX 10, if you really want to earn the big bucks, this is where you've got to be. It's AMX 10 every time, and it's 40 pole position, 40 for Heat 1 win, and then Heat 2 win, and then also $5 a piece for both fastest laps in respective heats. So it's going to be close. I think there won't be any team orders at SimRC. I can guarantee you of that much because Inez and Harrison will want to try and do a number on the other going into turns 1 and 2, which is prime overtaking spot. People might not remember this, but I certainly do when I was in the booth with TJ, one of our people behind the scenes, where we had Victor Miranda and Gael Valera going into Elf and then into Renault, which is turns 1 and 2, and yeah, that was side by side in TCRs, but GT3 completely different kettle of fish as we're about to go underway for the first of 2 races tonight.
That's right, it will be a rolling start, and so our Porsche safety car is in front to get us rolling off the grid. We have already lined up, and this is the way it looks after the reverse grid. Dornella Ramos, line 1. Pedro Dean and Gael Valero right behind him on the second row of the grid. Simone Demori and Mauricio Lozano there in second, or in third row. Facundo Rago, Jackson Resenje, and on down the roster. With, of course, the 7th row, 8th row being Quarantine Ganez and Gaston Calavi. So very, very exciting to see the reverse grid in action. And this is not actually a very long formation lap here, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see how this lasts and what things sound like as we get ready to go racing here. Evan, take us through the rolling start and get us in racing GT3s in Barcelona.
Welcome around through the final chicanes. The leader here is, of course, Dornella in the Ferrari. He's got a Lamborghini to his left-hand side. So let's see. We go racing here at Barcelona. That's a very good launch from the man at the front, but it is all bunched up. Zamperlini already making moves, as is Ramos. Gael Valero is in the mix of it here, heading down towards turn number 1. It's a great start from the Ferrari on pole position. Here we go in towards the first couple of corners. This is where it gets really, really tight. The Lamborghini trying to hang it around the outside as Ramos is getting involved here in the action as well. Up towards turn number 3, the top group all safely through. There is a couple of drivers losing spots at the back, but it seems like we've got through those first couple of corners relatively okay. There's a Porsche diving it down the inside here in towards turn number 4. There's now 2 Porsches side by side even further back, but that's a great race start from Dornella. He is up and away here at Barcelona.
Again, really everybody with a great start off the line. Alex, this is about the best start we could have asked for here today.
Well, I think everyone knows that you can't win a race on turn 1, as that's one of the Porsches around. That's Facundo Rago. Big time. That was not what you wanted to do. That was going through into Verth, because now they're going to go towards the main mid part of the circuit. Well, they're heading towards La Casa, which then brings them up to the top part of the circuit. That is incredibly, incredibly close. Simon Demoni closing in on Pedro Dean, whereas Jackson Resenje in the number 17 BMW is looking around the outside of the Lamborghini of Ramos. Ramos tucks it up the inside as they're going to go through the Bank Sabadell down into Europe car and then heading into the RACC chicane. Hit check between the Lamborghini and the BMW. We've got Pedro Dean in the number 21 Porsche just behind, with Simon Demori, Kaya Gaspar, Mauricio Lozano and Kieran Harrison rounding out the top 10, but Dornella has got a lead of about a second ahead of Fabio Zamperlini. Valero was very strategic in qualifying. Let's look at it from that point. He started on the outside of the front row. He's currently P3 in the Ford GT40 and is closing in, hand over fist on Fabio Zamperlini as we head on to our second lap. But Dornella has already cleared away into the distance, as that's a little stick of the nose up the inside through Renault by Valero on Zamperlini. So hey, look, the Ford GT40 and the McLaren MP412C don't get a lot of loving, but when they do, they're very much celebrated when they come back into sim racing, thanks to one particular driver or two.
Yeah, absolutely. And little did you guys know, it's not just a TriCast. We actually have 4 commentators here, so we're going to swap back and forth between all of us and just listening to the engines. Okay, it's too good. But
yeah.
This is a look at Facundo Rago spinning there in the background. Unceremonious start, but for the most part, a great way to begin our time on Catalonia here, Evan.
Yeah, it's a great race start. You can see Darren Valero is all over the back of Zamperlini in second place. It's almost like a stealth mode forward there in the background. He's just sneaking up and right on the gearbox of the car in front. Probably turn one, the best overtaking opportunity here for the Frenchman, because that Ford is slightly quicker in a straight line than the Ferrari. Of course, there is balance of performance in GT3 cars. There's balance of performance in every real major endurance race, but still, there is differences between the cars. Otherwise, what's the point in going racing? But Valero slightly shaky through the ACC chicane, as that is actually somebody coming into the pit lane. That is Zamperlini, who's making a pit stop. So Valero gets through.
I'm wondering if he's been black flagged possibly for some sort of indiscretion. We saw that previously. So Zamperlini drops out of the running, and now we ride on board with Jackson Resenje, who's again closing into the back bumper of the Lamborghini of Gerardo Ramos, the Spanish driver. But look at the closing speed. Wow. And I've just had it confirmed by by our team at AMX HQ. Drive through for Zamperlini. So that is not the way you want to start your first heat out of two for race 24 in AMX 10. But yeah, Pedro Dean is giving Jackson Resenje something to think about, because Resenje is now losing time. He's hemorrhaging time in comparison with Gerardo Ramos for P3. So, yeah, that's unfortunate for Fabio. We don't see him get any penalties, but when it does happen, it's a surprise to us all here in the broadcast.
Oh, there's a car gone round there. Oh. That is Jackson Resenje, who's gone round, heading towards turn number 9. That's another problem for one of our Brazilian racers. It's all going south for the South Americans, unfortunately, and yeah, that's a bit of an awkward spin for Resenje heading in towards turn number 8. But lap 3 of 9, this is great racing so far here in the GT3s, but we spoke about them providing this good racing action. It's good to see that we weren't just talking, and there is an actual proof to our statements.
Always nice to have that. Although not a prerequisite, it is vindicating. Let's take a look at the picture-in-picture to see what Kyle Gaspar was up to. And I think he just loses the back end here. Yeah, spins it around. And that is the start to something he would rather forget. Although it did look very coordinated, it is not a great way to start your race. Did that bumper pop off and then back on? Did I see that correctly?
Oh, that's the wonders of the iRacing damage model, I think. It does sometimes happen where a bumper does go off and then that does happen. I mean, looking back at what I just had a look back on one of our streams, so thank you very much to everyone watching on YouTube and Twitch, that Resenje actually went wide, and that was coming through out of the particular corner that Evan was talking about. He just one slight touch of the gravel, the back end got a tank slapper, and then he lost it on his own, but then Pedro Dean had nowhere to go, and unfortunately hit the side of him. So we're going to see a move here. That is Belziti. Was that Belziti around the outside of Dean? I think that was, but Dean's possibly going to grab that position back very shortly, but doesn't. So Belziti, with an absolute run of speed, gets through on Pedro Dean. 5th position. They've got Gaston Coulharvey in the 27 BMW. The highest placed BMW, Coulharvey, has now made up 9 positions. So he started on the outside of row 8 and is now into 7th position. So is gunning for what would be a top 5 finish, because it's not that far between Belziti, Dean and Coulharvey. Spetliniv we're seeing in the bottom right hand corner. Again, another one of the Brazilians, and also teammate to Jackson Resenje in the Canaan Esports Brazil crew. That's another one of the BMWs that has either found the grass and spun around, or found the barriers.
Yeah, quite unceremoniously so.
Sorry, Reed. I was going to say, it's almost like we have a synchronized spinning competition going on here, because that's not the first incident we've seen where 2 cars go around almost identical to each other. It's not good for the drivers who have paid to race here, but it's certainly easy on the eye and entertaining for us in the broadcast booth.
Right, and there's this. I was watching an NBA game, and there's this moment where the players have to rebound the ball, head back down the other end of the court, and every single one of the players on the team turn around and run at exactly the same synchronized moment. It reminds me a lot of when I see 2-3 cars spinning off at in sync. It is quite a majestic moment to watch, if also unfortunate. And after all is said and done, we are racing with 18 drivers remaining, including 19, including Tim State, who has just barely made it into this session, is on a +5 run, but it still only puts him in 18th, and he's got 3 more places to make up if he wants to reverse grid himself into the top for heat number 2.
As you can see, a dive down below from Kohavi. That's a lovely little move, isn't it? In towards the hairpin of turn number 10. Kohavi is he's on a good race here, although he's not actually appearing on my timing screen, so I could not tell you where he is for the life of me. But certainly, our race leader, Dornella, we thought Gaia Valero might be able to hunt him down, but he's doing an excellent job. But this could just be another instance of me cursing someone.
Yeah,
well,
I mean, we thought you'd learn already, but not yet. Alex, I think
it's
you
more
have some
fun.
lessons to teach about cursing our drivers, which happens quite a lot in AMX 0.
Well, it has been put in the chat, Lucas or Gael for P1. At the moment, Valero is going quicker by about the best part of nearly 4/10 of a second. We go to battle with Corentin Guiñez in the number 19 Ferrari from SimRC. Look at the closing speed on the Ferrari in comparison to Lamborghini. They're going to go into this turn here at Repsol for the next left-hander at Seat. So Guiñez again just showcasing the pace. He's also put in the fastest lap of the race. That's an additional $5 he'll be able to put into his pocket. But he's currently 4th at the moment, trying to close in for P3, but the gap is further expanding. It's very shortly we'll have 3 to go. 6 out of 9, very much most of the way through it so far. But yeah, it's just again, like I said in AMX 0 a little bit earlier on here, Reed, tonight, that Guiñez is a very strategic, very cold and calculated driver, and Ramos is now feeling the heat pressure from behind as Guiñez is going to send it through and goes through for P3.
Wow, a big move on the inside into the podium position, and it's Dornella in front, although I would say kind of inherited. He's only got about 7-8 tenths between him and the double French lineup on the podium up there provisionally. We'll see if there's any challengers. Ramos getting passed up, Belziti, Calavi the same, and so this is looking like some rarefied air up at the top here. Evan, I think maybe a little bit predictable that we would see yet another crazy charge up the podium, or up to the podium for Corentin Guiñez, but I mean a +12 is still pretty darn impressive.
It is still impressive. Obviously, it gets less impressive because we expect something like this from Guiñez, but you still gotta respect the abilities that he can showcase week in and week out. He's kind of met his match a little bit here with these top 2 because they're both tracking around similar lap times. Obviously, Guiñez has the fastest lap of the race, which is 0.3 of a second quicker than what Valero was able to do. We don't have long left in this race, and I think the great Murray Walker used to say that it's easy to catch someone. It's a whole different ball game if you want to pass them. Guiñez could find it difficult to pass Valero, but look, only time is going to tell. We can still see our race leader Dornella being under big pressure here, but he is sort of that pressure. He's not really showing us that he's going to make a mistake here. Again, Reed, haven't I?
No, you have to race against not only everybody else on the track, but also yourself, right? Can you keep it together around every corner? Executing is way harder than it looks. So even though all of our drivers have a lot of practice here on these cars, on this track, it's not going to be as easy as it looks for sure. So as we watch Gael Valero closing that gap, Alex, it's down to 6 tenths already.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a pendulum swing between Dornella and Valero, but then you look at the picture-in-picture, which is the battle for 7th position between the likes of Belziti, Harvey, and Dean. Oh, well, that's one of the Ferraris round. going in towards the pit lane entrance, and that was Mauricio Lozano from Mexico. So, fortunately, the number 12 has been unceremoniously spun around and dipped to 12th position in the race order as it stands, as Rafael Casacorta in the 116 has made up some steady progress. The Brazilian in the Porsche up to P13 now, but yeah, Valero's getting that pace down, and it was very true with what Evan said earlier on in the broadcast, that the GT40 is great when you can pull it out of a corner and hit the loud pedal, and it just literally fires along like a freight train. Going through the twistier stuff, you know, Valero always likes a challenge, whether it's competitors or whether it's the cars that he drives, and the GT40 is very much an example of that.
And he's doing an excellent job with it, right? P2, P3, anywhere up there is a very strong statement to say, hey, look, this car might be old enough to be my child, but it is still out there performing and putting up some good numbers. And speaking of some good numbers, as we look in the rearview mirror of Lucas Dornella, it is starting to fill up with Gael Valero, who is now closing once again to say, hey, we got one more lap left, Evan, but it might be just enough for Gael Valero to complete a, not quite the race that Quarantine Ganez has had, a plus 12, but still, maybe, just maybe, one lap is all it's going to take to change the stars of that podium place.
Well, anything can change in a corner, really, and you see Valero's got his best run, in my opinion, out of the chicane. So he's got to tuck into the slipstream now, and you can see the Ford just gaining and gaining down the straight, heading down towards turn number 1. He's left it late, but can he be precise enough into the first corner? Here comes Gael Valero, gonna go late on the brakes here. He's got to brake later than the Ferrari. Try get it through the corner. Has he got the job done? He has. The Ford leads for the time here today. Dornella's got to keep with the Ford, because this would be heartbreaking to lose the race win on the last lap. He just has to remember that this Ford might be godly in the first sector, but he will have the number over it through those final couple of curves. But great move from Gael Valero. He's played that perfectly.
Beautiful move at not the last second, but one of them. Now putting a 5/10 distance also as he zooms into the future. Now it's Quarantine Ganez finding himself about 6/10 back. Can he make it happen as we close out our time here for heat number 1 on the track in Barcelona? Let's take a look at the battle for 7th as that is happening simultaneously. A big shout out to our production for letting us keep a track of all the action. That's a little bit of a track limits there, but I'm not going to snitch on them. I know Narc, but for Lucas Dornella, he does have something to watch out for. 5/6 left. Close us out of our heat number 1 here, Alex.
Yeah, it has been a waiting game for Gael Valero, who still leads as we are heading towards the top part of the circuit through the Bank Sabadell into the Europe car, right-hander down the hill for the final time. He waited until the final run into turn 1, and once again it's going to be Gael Valero, but look at the battle for second position. Valero comes out of the final corner at New Holland, will take the race win. For Heat 1, it's going to be a drag race to the line. Ferrari versus Ferrari. Dornella will pit Quinez for that second place across the stripe. Del Ziti takes 4th, and Ramos holds on to 5th ahead of Gaston Coulharvey, who was not too far behind him. But Valero brings a bit of Americana here to AMX 10 and wins the opening heat.
Wow, look at that. The Ford in first and a .75 finish separating Dornella and Ganez, who, I couldn't have imagined a closer way to finish things out there. Amazing finish to our first heat of 2, which means that we once again have to contend with the reverse grid. We do have a 15th occupied by Kieran Harrison. So the first last and the last first is SimRC finish. Very polarizingly different. 15th and 1st there. So as we take a look around the parking lot, whatever you want to call it, this is, it's been a very different race depending on which side of SimRC you're on. For Harrison, I agree with chat. What happened? I don't know. Evan, did you catch what sent Kieran Harrison down all the way there to 15th?
No, I didn't, but I certainly know he's not going to be happy with it, because P15 is not the result he wants when his teammate Quarantine Ganez, as amazing as he is still got up to third place. But it was Guy Valero who took the win ahead of Lucas Dornella, and it was Inez Belziti, Ramos, Kulhavi, Dean, Gaspar, the other Dean, and then Oliveira rounding out the top 10. Maurizio Lozano, we saw a spin heading into the final corner. He finished 11th with Casacuta in 12th. And it was Fernandez, De Mori, and then the man we are speaking about, Kieran Harrison. Top 15 reverse grid, though, leaves Harrison in a decent position for the next race, so maybe his woes will be swiftly forgotten.
A man can dream. Unfortunately for our American Tim State, he finds himself just barely a point or a position out of that reverse grid standing. So let's see what this looks like as we get finally a chance to see Kieran Harrison and Simon De Mori up on the front row. They are no strangers up there, but usually we make them earn it. However, after a lackluster heat number 1, they find themselves up in the top for reals to start things off in the heat number 2. This is our final heat of the night for AMX 10. If you've enjoyed the racing so far, this is your last chance to get your fill of what has been a whole lot of greatness on showcase tonight. Row 2 of the grid is Casacuta and Fernandez. I have not seen Fernandez out here very often. In fact, perhaps the first time, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, he is in the position to do some great things. And let's see what great things can be accomplished as we take our way through the rolling start here. Take us away, Alex.
So, Heat 2 of race 24. Oh! Big Simon De Mori got a tank slapper out of the final corner. The Ferrari was this way and that way, and spears into the right-hand side of the barriers, but no surprise that Kieran Harrison would make it a textbook start, leading the way ahead of Danilo Fernandez and Rafael Casacuta. Gaston Kulhavi making some moves early doors. He's already up 2 positions from 10th on the grid to P8 and is in a Dean Porsche Brazilian sandwich at the moment. Is the Argentinian who brings back... Oh, he's had a tangle! Whoa. He's had a tangle with Vinicius Dean, who's off and into the gravel. They're all spinning off. It's carnage. Someone's lost their rear wing. Kulhavi's involved, and so is Guy Valero.
Oh my God.
And that is one of the Ferraris. That was Lucas Dornella, who's lost the front end of that 296. The first race, we got a great start, and then as soon as we saw Simon De Mori spear off, exit stage right, and it just literally caused havoc behind. Well, havoc a little bit further down the track. So, yeah, not great for the likes of for Vinicius Dean, Lucas Dornella. It really has put the cat amongst the proverbial pigeons. But yeah, I don't know how De Mori just lost it coming out of the final corner on the rolling start. It is an easy mistake to make.
Yeah, it might look a little bit easier. Why can't you just follow the car? Not quite as easy as some of our drivers make it look. So let's hop on board with some of the, I guess, heirs apparent to the top 5. The reverse gridded Casacuta, Lozano, and Kyle Gaspar also still up there. We do have some big moves, as it appears as if, is it Simon De Mori? I think Simon De Mori either crashed out, or yeah, he is out of here. I'm not sure if that's penalty or a crash, but way back in the back as we check out the front, it is Fernandez, who somehow is not only inherited but has maintained now a 2-second lead gap to Harrison, locking out the top 2.
Yeah, we saw Harrison quick in qualifying and in practice as well, so he certainly has decent pace to perform here, but as you can see in the picture-in-picture, a big opening lap crash through this corner. I saw Gerardo Ramos had half a Lamborghini going around as well. That's a big move from Gaspar up the inside. A very decent lunge there from the number 11 in towards turn number 5. That's on Lozano. Lozano, who's being slowly followed by the man, the myth, the legend, Valentin Guinness, who just likes to introduce himself slowly into these races. That's a big lunge up the inside. That's not introducing yourself slowly. That's going for broke in towards turn number 5. He's still got to get the job done here in towards turn number 10, because the Mexican does still have his car alongside. You can see Guinness got to try the long way around the corner. Doesn't go for a switchback or anything, because he will have the inside for the next right-hander. Here goes Valentin Guinness. We can see the onboard as well. This is what Guinness will be seeing. The number 19, though, is going to get the traction. And the Frenchman pulls off another fabulous move. Now he's got to hunt down Gaspar, and then he is into the top 5 already, much earlier than he was in race number 1. But no one catching Harrison for the time being. The sole Brit on the grid is performing a lot better than race 1 went from.
Performing even more. 1:44.9, setting the fastest lap of the race in the front. I mean, Kieran Harrison, we were talking about it earlier, Alex. This is absolutely a guy that can dominate when given the resources, and it seems like he's got nothing but as he pulls a 3.1 second lead in first.
Yeah, this is very much a redemption race for Kieran Harrison. Of course, GT4s at Hockenheim didn't go all his way. Oh, now that was Guinness again. More than introducing himself, he's like, hello, hold my beer and see you later. Right past Casa Curta in the Porsche, like literally Guinness just did the old Danny Rick. He just went for he licked the stamp and sent it. And Guinness was like, hello, see you, goodbye, in one fell sentence of conversation. As we do see on our screens the battle for 6th and 7th very briefly. Corentin Guinness now is within striking distance of Caio Gaspar, who's just up ahead of the number 11 Porsche. So at the moment, unlike the first race, we've got a Ferrari leading the way with Harrison, Fernandez in the Porsche, a Lamborghini with Oliveira, Gaspar and another Porsche. Highest placed BMW at the moment, having moved up 6 spots, is Jackson Senjay, who's also looking for a little bit of redemption in this second race, having had a bit of a difficult start to Heat 1. So I would expect that Senjay, with a second behind Pedro Dean in 9th, could start clawing his way up the top 10. Still a little bit more to go in this race.
Just a little bit. We still have about halfway, and with some very competitive times being set, they're up at the top of the standings. It's going to be an exciting race as we watch. Let's see what Oliveira can do. He is closing on a monster lap, and there he goes back over Fernandez into second. What a move! Wow, the action just continuing to heat up here. Evan, walk me through what's happening at the front of the field.
Yeah, some great racing is what's happening at the front of the field from the 2 drivers who are not in a team. They've got Caio Gaspar behind them, but Fernandez, he's got to try this one again, is he? No, apologies, that's Gaspar who's going up the inside. We saw race 1 was dominated by a Ferrari, but it is still a Ferrari leading, mind you, but it is the 2 Porsches who are putting on a bit of a show. It is Harrison in the Ferrari, then Oliveira in the Lamborghini, and then it is Gaspar and Fernandez in the 2 Porsches. And the picture-in-picture, we've got the battle for 8th as well. That's between Lozano and Dean, with Jackson Senjay, who we saw spin in the last one and head through this corner here, actually, in Heat 1.
I think it's the battle for 6th.
Yeah, I can't read. I've just discovered that is Casa Curta and Belziti who are in the battle for 6. Thanks, Reed, for pointing that one out.
No, it's like when you put the letter. It's like when you put the letter R next to the letter N and think it's an M. Like, nobody's going to hold that against you. So, yeah, that's 6th. And this is 4th that we're watching right now. Corentin Guinness, you have to know, his sights set on that top spot as he wants to rejoin his teammate, but that might be a little bit more difficult than it might seem here. We only have half the race done, but still plenty more to see here as we hop on board with Pedro Oliveira, who finds himself in maybe the meat in the sandwich he is not too happy about. He's got a 4.5 second lead, but is that going to be enough as Caio Gaspar closes in on him, Alex?
It's going to be difficult to say because when you're dealing with battles with opposition, the first thing it's going to do is compromise your sector times, and that's quite crucial, especially with a track here like the circuit Barcelona Catalunya. It is going to be interesting to see that Gaspar is closing on Oliveira, but there is Guinness, who is 7 tenths behind the Porsche in the battle for what will be the runners-up spot in this second heat for AMX 10 race 24, but you can see that Gaspar is looking one way, then the other, trying to keep Oliveira guessing. And you can see by the onboard that Gaspar taking unconventional racing lines, but look at Guinness. Guinness has closed that gap to what was 7 tenths to less than 2. So the Frenchman looking to, I don't think at this rate, with Harrison now having a 5-second lead over Oliveira, is going to be able to catch up and get the race win. unless Harrison decides to do otherwise. But they're battling for dollars, folks, as now here comes Guinness towards the outside of Gaspar. Is he going to send him the old Nigel Mansell dummy? Not quite.
I actually thought he might weave back in and juke him a little bit, but I mean the action, the angle is still there. He doesn't have to do it yet. Still only lap 5.5 out of 9, so plenty of time for the Frenchman, who is no stranger to the podium. He has made so many. It's not even a recovery drive, right? You get reverse gridded, you have a long way to go, but it feels shorter and shorter the longer we watch this top half of the grid. Now back on board with Pedro Oliveira as he has Kyle Gaspar in his rearview mirror. It says that there's about a second between them. It does not feel like that much. Going around the corner will shrink the distance between Kyle Gaspar and Quarantine Guinness, but perhaps not for long, Evan. This is not... I say it's not going to last for very much longer, but where do you feel the urgency is? Do you have to get this done now if you want to make up some of these big gaps towards the top?
Well, if Guinness wants to win this race, this move should have been done long ago, because Harrison, if he can go mistake-free to the end, has driven an unbelievable race here. His fastest lap of the race is a 44.9. There's only 2 men in qualifying that went that quick, so he is performing stellar at the top. The best Guinness I think can hope for here is a P2, but that man has surprised Manny, and he may surprise me again, but a bit of a mistake from the Lamborghini in second, which just sounds fabulous. I think everyone would agree. That Lamborghini sounds stunning. But here comes Gaspar, a little bit far back for the time being, but there's only 3.5 tenths of a second between the two, but the 87 holds on for now. Guinness, though, still all over the back of Gaspar, but credit where credit's due, Gaspar has done a great job here with the Frenchman behind. We've seen Guinness just cut through fields like a knife through butter on many occasions, but Gaspar is holding him up and making him work for his dollars here.
Yeah, definitely putting in work here at the top. There is all to race for as we close out our final 2 laps here. If you are going to make a move, now is the time. This time, Evan, it is the battle for 8th in the picture, and it does look pretty competitive. Not just those top 4, but we do have Casacuerda Lozano and Pedro Dean putting in some work there down towards the bottom of the roster. 8th, 9th, and 10th still very, very, very competitive, as we do have a field of give or take 19 racers to close us out here tonight in heat number 2 of AMX 10. It is going to look real good in the front and the back, and as the distances close here, Alex, you might feel some sweat starting to bead on the brows of Pedro Oliveira, Gaspar, and Guinness.
They've probably been sweating profusely since we went lights out the best part of 6.5 laps ago. But let's not forget, folks, Kyle Gaspar was our Season 2 champion. Coming into Season 3, he's come up against a lot of sterner opposition. Oliveira is making, as Evan pointed out, making a few couple of unforced errors, which is allowing the Porsche to close. Now, Gaspar is looking very, very feisty. He's going to go round the outside of the Lamborghini. They have a little bit of a touch, and that brings Guinness into the fight. But that was well judged by Kyle Gaspar to take second. But Guinness up the inside of Oliveira at the top of the circuit through Bank Sabadell to try and get third. And no matter what he's done in the playbook, Guinness has not been able to do it. And look who's brought into the fight. The Porsche Belziti as well. Brilliant.
This is one of the best final laps that I have ever seen. The white flag about to wave here as we come over the start-finish line, and this is just an incredible way to finish out our race. We have one more lap before that happens. Apologies. I'm too busy watching whatever we can call this. Is it a race? Is it a battle? Is it an overtake? Or all three? Evan, what's going on?
It's crazy. It's brilliant race. With Gaspar get the job done, but Guinness is just not able to execute his exquisite overtakes like he usually can. He's stuck in troubled waters here. Tries another lunge up the inside potentially here, and Oliveira wants to get on that podium, wants more than a podium. Those are the high standards he set for himself. Got to go for the outside here. Try later, heading in towards the hairpin, goes for the outside now. No, he's pushed onto the rubble. Now we've got to look up the inside. Belziti is he's just sitting here waiting. Maybe if there's a mistake in front, he can sneak his Porsche front end through. But for now, Guinness still stuck behind. The Brazilian driver in third, though, is making his car twice the width that it actually is. But this is where we saw him be overtaken. Oh, what's happened there for Guinness? Is he... Oh, there he is. He's back.
All right, yeah, a crisis averted there. Quarantine flashing a little bit everywhere, but let's see what it... okay. Is this like when you pick up a star? Did he hit one of those Mario Kart power-ups? I don't know. He's there somewhere, guys, I promise. And we'll do some investigative journalism to see if we can uncover the truth of the sleuth of where he is. In the meantime, Oliveira, a guy we've talked about quite a bit, he's got a 1.7 between himself and whatever is happening behind there to lock out what feels like a fairly certain top three. Fairly certain. Is that a safe statement, Alex?
Never say a safe statement when Corentin Guinness is involved in a battle for the final step of the rostrum. But yeah, like Evan said, Oliveira has done a magnificent job with that Lamborghini. Guinness launches up the inside of people where Evan said, yeah, well, that's not how you introduce yourself. And then I said the hold my beer reference a little bit earlier on. But
right.
Guinness, I think that Ferrari has sort of like dropped off a little bit, whereas Harrison has been able to take complete advantage behind, having a 6.7 second lead. And then as Gaspar got through on a better when Guinness was the eye of the needle, it was going to be the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. And the immovable object so far in this race has been the 87 Lamborghini of Pedro Oliveira. And Corentin Guinness's run hasn't really been helped by that wide Lamborghini in front, but he is getting closer and closer again in the latter stages of this final lap.
This is indeed the latter stages. If you're going to send it, now is the time. Turning his car into an envelope, into the mailbox he goes, ready to send it until the final moments, the final inches, the final seconds of our race. And now, here he is around the outside, swiveling around. He loses himself in the corner and cannot pull the overtake into the podium. Oh my God, what a heartbreak there. In just the final seconds of the race, he will finish in fourth as the checkered flag waves, and that is going to do it for what was an absolutely electrifying way to finish out heat number 2 for AMX 10 here tonight.
What a great race in the end that one was. Oliveira and Guinness will both have enjoyed that one thoroughly because, all right, winning is good, but work hard, you try everything, and it's just a great battle, a great bit of mutual respect between the drivers. All right, we saw some collisions, but I think most of them were just really unfortunate. As we see Kulhavi, that's not one he's going to want to look back on. His first bit of screen time really this race, and he spun around. But a great race. Huge respect to Kieran Harrison as well, because we had such a good race. We didn't even really get to focus on him, but he took the race win here by quite a margin.
Yes, quite a margarine up there, smooth as butter as he slid across the finish line in first, and a little bit deserved, dare I say, after finishing in 15th in the heat before that. So you got to keep in mind, it's not about what you do in the heat. You got to think a little bit more long term. And he did, able to close things out in dominant fashion here in heat number 2. Might get a chance to hear from him, but either way, this is how the cookie crumbles. What a way to bring it back. Really disappointing AMX 0 race, and now to come back and finish in P1. Alex, break down our standings for our final heat of the night.
So, Kieran Harrison gets the redemption he needed by winning heat 2 of race 24 of AMX 10. By nearly 6.5 seconds ahead of Caio Gaspar, who kept the likes of Pedro Oliveira and Corentin Guinness at bay. Fabrizio Belziti from Voracious could have pretty much been there. I think might have had the opportunity to get through ahead of Guinness for fourth, ahead of Danilo Fernandez, Rafael Casacorta, with Mauricio Lozano, Pedro Dean, Rodrigo Lizakowski, who actually had He had internet troubles in Heat 1 a little bit earlier on, finished P10 ahead of Jackson Osenje, Nick Boy, Fabio Zampolini, Facundo Rago, Diego Villarreal, Felipe Espetriniv, Gaio Valero took the win in Heat 1. Not such a great run outside of picking up those dollars, finishing 17th ahead of the man representing the Stars and Stripes, Tim State, with Gaston Coulhavy finishing 19th there.
What a way to close things out. Just nonstop action, especially heat number one. I don't know. This is the true struggle, and maybe you can talk to this, Evan. You're here and you're watching, and you have to talk about it, but like you kind of just want to be a passenger. You kind of want to be a spectator and just watch it happen.
Yeah, you want to just enjoy racing, and I suppose when we get to talk about it, we are thoroughly enjoying it. I think if I spoke for all three of us to say we did enjoy the action this evening, it was fabulous. We had some messy stuff here or there, maybe in the AMX 0 and the AMX 10 races, but overall, it was a great night of racing, and I think we ended it well with that second heat. It started with a few embarrassing moments maybe for people spinning under the pace car, but that battle at the end between Guinness and Oliveira, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And as we said at the start, it's great to see so many different drivers, so many different cars, so many different nationalities, and so many different teams going against each other here at AMX Global.
Yeah, quite a few teams, and you've been away for a little bit, Alex. So it's good to have you back. I think it's safe to say that the competition is probably just as good as when you were here last.
Yeah, very much the case, Reed, because the thing is with GT3s, the circuit like Barcelona, you know that there are going to be fireworks. I mean, I really feel sorry for Simon de Mori in that heat too. He was on the outside of the front row, and then tank slapper in the Ferrari front end gets rearranged and he's out on the spot. I think also a lot of the drivers that we've seen through our initial phases here at AMX, right from the very humble beginnings of beta season 1, where you've seen people like Coulhavy struggle. Shout out to Coulhavy for bringing the Marlboro livery back on the BMW M4. He actually did that in season 2, and I think myself and I think it was Brad or Marco, we were wondering whether he might get banned for inadvertent tobacco sponsorship. We might have to look for some regs if we're aligning ourselves with KARA, the FIA 3 and ASN. I think there will have to be a clampdown on liveries a little bit. So tobacco sponsorship, Gaston Coulhavy might not be one of them that will be allowed from after season 3. I think you will find.
Very happy to have everybody here in this season. We're going to take a break, and when we come back after a brief moment, we'll be heading into our first interview of the night. So stick around. We'll be back in just a few seconds. Here we go. A big warm welcome to Kieran Harrison. It's been quite a day, Kieran. You've been racing in both AMX 0 and 10, and I think it's safe to say that the end of 0 was a little bit unusual, but going into AMX 10, you had some pretty good moments there. How do you refocus from all of that to put up such a strong performance there at the end of Heat 2?
Yeah, I mean, wasn't my best day, because I mean, even as you say, after the shenanigans in the AMX 0 race, in race 1 of the GT3 race, I had trouble with damage. I was really glad to make the reverse grid, but yeah, you've just got to try and make the most of it at all times, I guess. Just think of every race as a separate thing, and just take it one at a time. Forget about what's happened before, and just try and focus on what you're racing at that moment.
Now, we were racing GT4s and GT3s out here, so sort of big and little brothers of themselves, but quite a bit of difference here. So when you're taking GT4s out or GT3s, track notwithstanding, what's the secret? If I've bought my very first, iRacing free trial and I want to get out there, what is it that you did to? I mean, obviously the reverse grid probably helped you out just a little bit, but really, really strong race in Heat 2. Was there just everything go right for you, or is there something else that you pulled out of the bag?
Yeah, I mean, it was the start really made it. I didn't think I nailed the start that much, but then the guy who started P2 ended up spinning out the last corner, so I ended up with a big gap straight away. So that was key. That was why I was pleased to be on pole in particular, because I knew I'd be out of the danger zone by turn 1. And from there I managed to, because I had the slight gap to begin with, I could just look after the tyres, because I don't know what it was like in the other cars, but certainly in our Ferraris, it was, the rear tyres were melting at that track, so it was just, I was just trying to preserve them as best I could so that I still had grip by the end of the race. But as it happened, the other guys behind ended up fighting anyway, so I got a clean break and just managed to control it safely from there.
Yeah, congratulations. Great performance there at the end of Heat 2. So we'll go ahead and hurriedly add those points to your win totals, which is getting a little bit up there. And while you're winning everything over here, what else do you have going on? You racing in any other tournaments right now?
Not presently. I mean, some of our drivers from SimRC are currently racing in the IMSA esports series that's going on. I don't know whether I'll get in the car by the end of the season. I might be doing one of the remaining 2 races. We'll see. But other than that, we got DNLS coming up in the coming months. But aside from that, I've got a free schedule at the moment. Well, and this series, of course.
Well, we're happy that your schedule is free enough to come out here and show us how it's done. Brilliant race on the day. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you back out here for more racing in AMX Global League Season 3.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's go ahead and get started with our second interview. Welcome back. It's been a while since we've seen you on the show, Pedro. What was your experience like tonight in AMX? Hello. Hello. Can you hear me?
Okay, I hear you.
Okay. All right. Just a quick question. Welcome back. What was your experience racing in AMX like tonight?
It was a good race today. I don't have so lucky in the first 2-1. I have too much incidents. So when I came to GT3, I just think I have to race, do my better, and this.
In Heat 2, the last race, you were very far at the top, but it was really difficult to stay up there. There's so many good racers. How did you manage to finish so well?
Yeah, the Lambo was have straight power, and but in the turns I struggle a little. So when I saw in the mirror Kyle and Corentin coming, I think, oh my God, not today, not today, not today, because in Road Atlanta with Porsche Cup, I was in first place and 5 headlines behind me. No repeat, not this time. And I fight against him against from Kyle. Kyle just overtake me like have LMDH, and when Quentin or Guinness came in, I think, oh my god, I need to be here. And was a great fight with these 2 drivers. Was amazing fight. It was amazing pace in the hit 1. Have an incident in my front, and I choose the gravel. I lost so much time to come back to the line, and so hit 2 pay all bad luck is in this day. Was a great fight with these guys.
Yeah, it was a really hard fight, and you came out on top. Previously, it hasn't gone your way. So did you do anything different this time as you were fighting to keep that place?
I just take my line first. I just take my line and defend my point, and I try to break it too late, and was a great.
It was really great watching you race, and we're happy to have you back here and see you doing so well in AMX. What is your goal for AMX? Are you just out here to have fun? Are you trying to race for the win every single race? And what has your experience been like this season?
In the first time I came to the fun, so when I see the grids, the drivers, and the last Hold Atlanta with Porsche Cup, when I've had lines against side by side against Max, I try to leave more experience and learning with these drivers, how to defend, how to attack. When these guys overtake me, I try to load in my memory how overtake me, how block me, how defend me. I try to do the same thing with these guys, to defend or to overtake him. And the first time it was fun, but the fun is gonna be serious.
Well, you're doing a great job so far. Congratulations on doing so well tonight, and we look forward to seeing you back in AMX more this season.
Okay, thanks guys. Bye-bye.
And that's going to do it for our interview. Some great wisdom there. You could kind of hear the panic in Pedro's voice there at the end, right, Evan?
No, because I couldn't hear anything.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll figure that out. You got to join this channel, hit the button. We'll get you. You're still new. We're learning the ropes, and
I'm still a rookie.
Aside from that, everything that you could hear today sounded pretty good. Alex, was there a highlight of the races for you today?
I think Pedro's defense against Corentin Guignez, just the way that he made that rear end of that Lamborghini Huracan as wide as humanly possible. No matter what Guignez did, Oliveira had a counter to it, and that was one of the big points. But then also the fact of we had great racing up and down through all of the respective races for GT4 at Hockenheim, for AMX Zero, and GT3s. It's a favourite of mine. It's the category that I commentate most on in sim racing, and it's always a pleasure to hear like the best part of 11,500 horsepower go down the start-finish line, the start-finish straight at Barcelona, to really enjoy what moves people can do. Guiñez was another standout again, of course. Yeah, no triple crowns unfortunately tonight, Corentin, but the way that he managed to fire that Ferrari in places that I think not any of us were expecting was another one of the highlights. But I think also the competitive nature of AMX Global for season 3 has really gone up that extra level, and that's why it's top tier. That's why people come back again, and also the fact of increased prize pools, and also those wonderful prizes at the end of season 3 for our AMX 0 and AMX 10 champion.
Yep, that's right. We're leveling things up every single day, it feels like. Most recently, our partnership with KARA, the Korean Automobile Racing Association, in partnership with the FIA. We're going to be leveling things up. You do not want to miss it. So make sure to stay tuned to our social media on Twitter and Instagram. We've got highlights, announcements, and all the info you need. If it's not there, then you can find it by joining us on the AMX Global Discord. So you can find a link to that not only by just searching for it, but also by clicking on the Discord link either down below the stream or wherever you're watching. And if you're watching us on YouTube or Twitch or wherever you are, we'd love to have you follow or subscribe to the stream. We appreciate you watching, appreciate your support, and we'd love to see you back here again for more action from AMX Season 3. But if you'd like to join us and not be a viewer, you can join us as a racer by heading over to amxrace.com and signing up. We have free races in AMX 0, and if you're fast enough, you can get in for free to the $600 prize pool AMX 10 races you just got a chance to watch here today. It was a great day of games, and I couldn't have picked two better people to join me. So a big thanks to Evan and Alex for being here alongside me today. And of course, a big shout out to everyone else behind the scenes in our production crew and all of our admins and people that work to make these races great every second of the way. We got a lot to think about, a lot to process, and it's been an absolute banger of a week of races, and we're going to do it all over again about 5 more times. We've got a lot more races left in AMX Global League Season 3, and I cannot wait to show them to you. So we're going to take a break and get back even faster next week for more action from AMX Global League Season 3. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We'll see you back here again to do it all over again next week.